Welcome everyone to every single LEGO movie today. You might think there's only two, but you'd be wrong. Over the years, we've covered all sorts of content coming out from Warner Brothers and the LEGO company, and they've turned around with all sorts of different projects, some of them mainline film franchises, some of them spin-offs, some of them bizarre new directions, and some not even finished in the first place. And via all sorts of different outlets, be it terrible movie reviews, a "this is coming back" type video, or outright cancelled content, only now have we properly really covered every single form of a LEGO movie. So today we'll be going through number 1, 2, 3, Ninjago, Batman, and also, why not, I'll chuck in the rip-off LEGO movie in there too. It's a good fun long romp of a comp. Whew. So please enjoy some format of us talking about every single LEGO movie there is. Starting off with a scene breakdown from LEGO Movie 1. The LEGO Movie, a surprise hit of a movie that no one was really rooting for at first. It seemed like such a cash grab, you know? And yet little did we know the messaging behind this movie would be one that really strikes at the heart of kids and fanatics alike about how to properly handle playing around with LEGO. And today we're tackling the scene that changed the LEGO Movie. There's only one option, let's be honest. While this movie is crammed in with a million animated details and references, how every frame is dipped in reality by using actual LEGO stop-motion techniques to inform the logic of this universe, the scene that really turns this movie on its head and holds the most thematic weight is obviously the moment our protagonist Emmett falls off the table in real life and captures a glimpse of the non-LEGO reality that surrounds his existence. You know the one. So with that in mind, I think that's enough of the introductions. LEGO Movie. You want some context? It's kinda your classic fantasy hero adventure act, but with every Warner Bros. IP under the sun somehow involved. Emmett is your generic everyman hero at the center, and they're out to foil the evil plans of President Business. But alas, every last one of them is captured. And Emmett, with this brick here, the piece of resistance as it's called, stuck to his back, is strapped up to the batteries of the self-destruct mechanism of the overly tall tower. As it stands, everybody will soon be blown up, and President Business will get everything he wants, gluing all of the LEGO worlds into place with Craggle. Did you get all of that? Somewhat classic stuff. And now Emmett, to save everybody, dislodges the battery the only way he knows how, by diving off of the edge of the tower and into the infinite abyss of nothingness, as it is known. The generic everyman, who turned out to be just a regular person after all, has sacrificed himself to save everyone around him. And as they commiserate and consolidate on the moment for a moment, they burst into action to save the day of the other cities out there, with a speech about how anybody, even the most regular of regular people, have the power inside of them to be groundbreakers.
And I mean literally, break the ground, fill up the pieces, tear apart your walls.
Inspiring the masses to make whatever they want. And yes, that does include from Charlie Day's Benny, which, by the way, I know everyone talks about the droplets of shower or the ocean animated in this movie, but I love how they have fully realized frame smears in LEGO form for Benny's little outburst here. Anyway, finally, with all these pieces in motion, we return back to Emmett with... I mean, I guess that is to be expected, but it's probably a nice little nod to 2001's A Space Odyssey chucked in there. Plus, it's apparently confirmed by creators Lord and Miller that the build your own bricks revelation from the people is also a reference to the apes in 2001 A Space Odyssey as well, so it very much lines up there. And yes, they're still LEGO pieces, just a little extra blurred. And actually, all of these varieties of Abyss could easily be more references to the work of Douglas Trumbull, the visual effects guy for 2001 and other iconic works. Or simply demonstrative of the severity of depth Emmett is falling at this point to be essentially breaking reality. Until eventually... the human world, featuring tons of lens aberration, radial blurs, and a heavy dark vignette. The thickest sense of dizziness you can portray. Followed by... Now, I thought for the longest time this was his face distorted across the entire frame like a funky panorama effect, but I think it's just a super close-up. Either way, we're gonna start getting philosophical now, as in this reality, Emmett cannot move. He can only think. All of Bricksburg and all the other worlds have been meticulously built in real life, in the basement of some real-world house, and Emmett is the only one who has gained this perception. It sure is nice to finally lie down after an awful day. How did this happen?
What in the world is that?
And as Emmett comes to terms of what his eyes are seeing, the camera slowly eases towards him, realization setting in. It's not just that the environments have been built in this world, the story itself is man-made, as this child is saying Luigi's dialogue lines for him. Hopefully this doesn't curdle into a full-on existential crisis for the man.
Uh-oh. No. No! Oh, no, hey, don't eat me, don't eat me!
The motions are still pretty simple, a quick point-of-view shot as he spots Emmett on the ground, then the switch to Emmett's perspective of the response, a wide angle of him being lifted tiny against the scale of this world, and rising higher from the kid's view as he addresses Emmett and reveals a cheeky extra bit of set design blurred in the background.
Hi, Emmett.
The views between the two of them continue, Emmett's face moving closer in a controlled fashion, whilst the kid's face distorts around the edges of the frame thanks to the lingering dizziness. One is in their comfortable territory, and the other clearly is not. The power dynamic is stark, even if they're being treated as equal in behavior and composition. This mythological character we've been hearing about throughout the runtime of this film, clearly representative of a god for the LEGO inhabitants, literally from upstairs and crafting all that we've seen before us, typically. Revealing his appearance in teasing fashion with his first steps, then his shadow, then his legs, and finally himself, blasted with angelic white backlight to hide his face just that little bit more and make him seem more ethereal as he seems to the LEGO land.
What happened?
And then you can recognize who it is. It's Will Ferrell, which isn't just a cheeky cameo appearance from a celebrity. He's been involved throughout this movie, as he's the voice actor of President Business himself. Linking all to the thematics of this movie that it's the same guy who wants to glue the world together who is standing above this LEGO landscape with the power to design in his ideals.
Why is the dragon on top of the luxury condo development?
Not to mention, he seems to have some of the ideals of President Business as well. Uninvested in the chaos of life and wanting organization. But why is it here? What is this all about? Well,
I was just playing and...
But this is dad stuff.
every beat of this movie, every colorful character, storyline, and eccentricism comes from this kid here just playing with the toys he's got around him. And that's the point. LEGO is a toy franchise that has reached the most amount of people ever for a toy company, I'm pretty sure. When someone repasted the core idea into a video game, it then became the biggest video game of all time, you know? And with that kind of broad audience, you get all types of people. Those that see LEGO as an expression of art to be perfected, methodical, and glued to maintain its integrity.
All of this that you see is thought out.
And those that make up some nonsense and just have fun with the collection they have and their own imagination. Emmett is a miniature projection this kid has implanted of himself. Just an ordinary person with the strange imagination to create something. It doesn't perfectly make sense, like a dragon on a luxury condo, although that's totally symbolic of hoarding wealth. Come on, Dad. And as for President Business, well, that too is a creation of this kid as a more true to perception projection of his own father. The villain of the story, dominating over his reality and wanting to keep everything prim and perfect. And in telling this story like this, the creators themselves are letting you know which kind of LEGO player base they prefer the ideals of.
This isn't a toy.
It kind of is.
Nice guy!
Ah, it's not too bad. Honestly, you get used to it after a while. Come join the club. I can only breathe through my anus. And throughout this back and forth between father and son about certain artistic and playlistic choices,
You accidentally took the entire top off of that tower?
the camera work is doing one thing pretty interestingly. As a scene of a father scolding their child, you would expect a back and forth of high and low angles on the two. And to be fair, the father is shown from quite a low angle. From Emmett's perspective, he is seen as quite this godly figure, untouchably tall and warping on the edges and all. But when it comes to the non-LEGO perspectives, it's over the shoulder and low from the kid's side. But reverse the other way, this child is not being looked down on. The father may be venting about his concerns, but the movie is not on his side. The cinematography is not belittling him. In fact, the camera is placed so subtly at a higher angle, it's almost imperceivable. What a theme. Seeing the kid as almost neutral or equal makes this rant seem less founded, as the kid is doing what is intended for toys, playing with them. And to really nail home the connections between father and business, Will Ferrell moves over to a drawer to reveal...
More Kraggles?
Not only is business doing it as his evil deed, but the dad is literally gluing his works together. He is such a perfectionist. And on that cue, we then begin to resume events with the Lego reality at the same time as Emmett is in the real world. Naturally, starting with President Business as he whips out thousands of micromanagers tasked with gluing elements of civilization together, perfectly posed. The father now shot like a slow-motion, ominous kaiju, destructive with every step as he is destroying this work through a certain lens, placing it solidly in place. And it continues. The sequence of shots making it seem as though father is seeing them in motion when it's the kid's imagination filling in the keyframed events. In reality, it's almost the same, but this static reality is all that father sees it as, missing that imaginary perspective others have when they're young.
No, wait! No, we're going down!
And this time selling the idea via an L cut, so that the audio from the imaginary actions, voices, and deconstruction sounds play as the father is shattering it apart in the next shot. I assume the kid's just been saying these lines in his head, though they have established he says some dialogue out loud. Probably a good idea to not be vocal at this moment. Finally, some peace and quiet.
Wait, no!
Come on! And now we've seen the basics of these parallels, it's time for a montage effect, now from Emmett's perspective.
Stop!
Since it's relatively boring content to watch a middle-aged man glue each brick piece together, it's much nicer to just trim across the details like an Edgar Wright sequence. Usually that means zooms on every quick shot, but this time it's just the one on Emmett's face. Still fun to observe all the same. And for one more match cut with a new spin of technique, we now get...
There be too many micromanagers!
No, it's a hodgepodge.
The micromanagers are literally the father's micromanaging work, and so they too are animated on his IRL dialogue. He doesn't intend to play the part, but he is doing so. And to finalize this sequence of non-abstract horror, the father finally spots and targets Emmett himself.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
It's a final goodbye on Emmett's part as he can only observe unmovingly from above as his friends are entrapped, and now will be actioned upon immediately himself.
The piece of resistance!
But there's a hint of hope, and after all this time, Emmett can perceive pretty clearly in this reality now, ready to hear the themes of the movie fed directly into his IRL-dipped ears.
Generic construction worker, put him back where he belongs.
But he doesn't care. It doesn't hit him anymore. He's already done his brooding over this revelation because it's also not that important. The very message the kid was trying to express in his playtime is that this random guy can be the hero. And Emmett believes it, knowing what step to take next if he just has the bravery and tenacity to act upon it. It's a big moment, but Emmett is still small scale. And a couple gags later of the same idea, eventually Emmett fully... bringing forth the kid's attention to bring it all together. All it takes is a quick distraction from Dad, and then...
It's up to you now, Emmett.
It's time for our positive swell of optimism. Morgan Freeman's voice in Emmett's ear as we heard from earlier in the movie.
Believe.
That was likely inspired by this poster when the kid was making up the story earlier in the movie.
All you have to do is to believe.
Oh, another dance party in a movie. Why do they always do that? I hate dance parties. It could be worse. And as the music bolsters up, Emmett is sent back through the tunnel of lights, now visibly labelled as the Magic Portal, which, while pretty accurate, is also a direct reference to the first LEGO animation ever made. The magic portal is what it was called. Very cool. And Emmett is dropped back into his reality. Transitioning us from the JPEGs of reality down to the occasional bricks of Lego to the stabilized swirling of lights. And as we cut to Emmett's close-up face, he finally emotes again from the default face of our dimension to the loosening twitches of animation. He's back in the lands of Lego. Fully empowered with the piece of resistance, the understandings of a master builder, and the background knowledge of his entire being, in reality, it is the child, Finn by the way is his name, actively choosing to resist against his dad's actions while he's away. The final battle can begin, as both an action sequence of Lego versus Robo micromanagers, as well as the conflict between an IRL father and son, and their disagreements on how to handle Lego and interact with each other. The story, it turns out, is more than just an action-adventure plot with all the Warner Brothers IP under the sun somehow involved, but a relationship drama between members of family. And it was all established in rapid succession with this scene here, that undeniably flips the entire concept of the Lego movie on its head, and leaves us with thematic messaging that strikes far more directly than any of us could have imagined.
You might see a mess. What I see are people taking and making something new out of it.
And as the father catches up and spots his own Lego reinterpretation, he too understands a perspective other than his own, finally seeing eye to eye with his son as Emmett gets president business to see eye to eye too. And it starts from this absurd twist. This was the scene that changed the Lego movie. Well, it was that, or the one where Batman threw batarangs for 30 seconds.
Wham! Kazap!
It'll be totally terrifying. Terrific. That's what I meant.
Today we're going to be looking at the terrible Lego Movie 2. Notably underwhelming in comparison to the original Lego Movie, and I'll be honest, I have not seen it since it came out in cinemas, so I thought it was around about time for a nice revisit on the movie. It's an interesting case study. It had a lot going against it, with the two Lego spin-off movies having declining returns financially, as well as a 5-year gap from the first one, and that's kind of the worst length you can go for when it comes to the family audience. You've either got to leave it like 2 to 3 years where the kids haven't fully grown up yet, or do a full-on 10 years like Toy Story did, such that at least you're going to have an element of nostalgia growing around it. And what makes it worse, Lord and Miller had long abandoned the franchise as their attention had moved on to Spider-Verse. All the power to them, makes a lot of sense. And then after the fact, it's also no secret that the Lego group weren't really pleased with the results, pulling a Christopher Nolan by swapping Warner Brothers over with Universal Pictures just a year later, from which they've so far gotten a Pharrell Williams biopic that flopped. Is it the Lego group that's the problem? Either way, what was it that actually led them to this decision? I mean, what is it about this terrible movie that made the franchise fall from grace? Well, let's take another look at this tale of siblings and a plot twist that I still can't believe we then repeated 3 years later with Lightyear to an eerie extent when you think about it. We open exactly where we left off, with the younger sister now also allowed to play in the Lego Den. Spoilers for the first Lego movie, by the way. We've so far only done a scene breakdown and talked about it a few times. We'll do an amazing on it at some point. But hey, that's a totally different series, technically.
What?
In which Emmett offers peace with the Duplo characters in an exchange that really sums up the world right now.
I guess if we open our hearts, everything can be awesome.
And I'll be honest, the opening for this movie is really solid. It does carry on from the first movie pretty seamlessly. It's conceptually on par with the first, the sister scream being this apocalyptic world-shattering sound being the highlight. You can read behind each of the lines here, two siblings trying to one-up each other whilst they're playing.
I eat lasers.
That's impossible!
We know how this world works now, so may as well lean into it. And the fact that the sister's not playing along with the brothers' rules turns the Duplo creatures into this unstoppable force. It's a version of playtime we've never gotten from Toy Story. We never saw Andy or Bonnie struggle to negotiate with a sibling, you know? This descends into a full-on existential war, the kid's perspective kind of slipping into the dad's from the first movie, clearly frustrated by everything he's building being pulled apart. Thematic or a contradiction? It's here we get a contractually obligated Justice League cameo, complete with Jason Momoa's Aquaman, seeing as him and Wonder Woman were their only major successes at the time. Just you wait for all those Jurassic World and Minions cameos getting funneled into the universe movies, if those ever actually happen. It then cuts to a 5-year later title card, which initially I wasn't sure if it was just an exaggeration of a weekend at best, which would have been fine enough with just the dialogue.
A lifetime has passed since then.
However, no, they do a legitimate 5-year time jump in this, which, to be fair, is the gap since the first one, during which the main kid has aged. The kid, by the way, is called Finn. Just learned that from IMDb, good to know. Anyway, with a time jump like that, I guess we're getting more parallels to Lightyear. Anyway, now that Finn has grown up, the narration keeps that voice with a now moody kid in mind.
We built a grittier, more mature society.
This is Apocalypseburg, which showcases the same cinematic visual quality as the other LEGO movies, albeit something less striking as something completely made of LEGO. We'd essentially already seen the symptoms of this in the other 2 spin-off LEGO movies, ditching the amazing LEGO water visuals for just water, you know? And I think that's one of the notable elements that make these lesser movies. Here, it's all presented as LEGO, but it just looks less like it, weirdly. I don't know what it is about the background, because this almost seems to be a weird middle ground where it's nice that they have conceptually done it, but the actual set design doesn't really fully embellish that concept that brings in that wow factor. It's almost as if because we've gotten used to how the world works, the magic is gone and it's forgotten how to present it to us again. That being said, it's not a bad dynamic to see Emmett still keeping in as his happy-go-lucky character in the midst of this dystopian society he now lives in. And using the opening routine here as a juxtaposition to the first LEGO movie as well, is just kind of that neat, repetitive humor that I love to see.
Scarfield, Deathface, Metal Scratch, Razor Beam.
And yes, that's Chris Pratt making a Garfield joke whilst playing the animated character everyone really appreciated him for, albeit a good few years earlier. Emmett's very much the best and worst thing that happened to Chris Pratt's voice acting career. Like, he was so perfect for this character, you know, the generic default everyman, that people suddenly thought he could do anything by being himself. We also have an attempt at weaving the LEGO Batman movie into the timeline here, despite this apocalypse happening immediately after the original. Complete with Alfred not saying anything, because presumably they didn't want to pay Ralph Fiennes a full fee in this one.
Just me and Alfred.
And in fact, that exact same thing also happens for Bad Cop, as presumably Liam Neeson didn't come back at all. He just gets one singular grunt in this movie. I mean, if they had gotten both Liam Neeson and Ralph Fiennes along for this one, that would have made the weirdest Schindler's List reunion. But I do think the fact that the narration is wild-style brooding by herself is pretty funny, and consistent with her character too.
Stare off into the distance, and then narrate whatever grim thoughts come into your mind.
And here we also get some nice setups for later in the movie, rather brilliantly weaved in as Emmett's light-hearted thoughts. Nicely done. As is how they combine the relationship between Emmett and Wildstyle with a parallel to the 2 sides of the boys' inner conflict. Emmett representing the positive childhood joy, and Wildstyle being the mature side. As demonstrated when Emmett tries just building a normal house again.
We also have to grow up sometime. Can you do that for me?
I can try.
A lot of this movie's first act, I'd say, is as good as the first movie, with the animation itself being consistently great throughout most of it, just with how much emotion they can get across on these LEGO minifigure faces. For a character with limited motion, Emmett is incredibly expressive. However, Wildstyle's concerns seem justified as something new enters the fray. In which we get into an action sequence with some decent gags here and there.
I think my dentist used to work in this office.
It doesn't quite have the frenetically fast-paced gags of the first movie, but, you know, they're still solid. A little bit of that Lord and Miller element isn't here this time. It was perfectly fine without raisins! There is some glimmers of being Lego-fied from the otherwise barren landscape too, the dust in the desert trail under the vehicles being the best example of this. However, it's not long until it's time to bring in the LEGO Friends character designs. Yes, we're moving on from Duplo now. Got another brand to give a subtextual push for, as they do it with this still weirdly semi-accurate joke.
How many movies have they made about you? Because there are like 9 about me, and like 3 others in various stages of development.
Sorry if you thought his solo movie had burnt out all of the self-aware Batman gags, because boy do they have some more here. And to be fair, doing a little bit more of the older stuff that we've come to enjoy is obviously a good direction to take, even if they don't stick the landing a lot in this movie.
You fought
and master built and kicked butt, and then the hapless male was the leader.
And it all starts up the rift between Emmett and Wildstyle.
Isn't tough enough?
Not tough enough?
Yeah.
So I think here is probably the very first misstep in the movie. Of course, this is going to take us along the message that you don't need to be tough, and it'll discuss, the masculinity side of things. A very good message to run along with, but I would kind of say that this is kind of where the movie begins to retread the first one a little too closely. It's not a million miles away from Emmett being underestimated and seemingly incompetent in the first one. We even get another display of Emmett being a doofus here with his triple-decker couch.
Triple-decker couch!
Maybe let us handle it.
Like, we've already done this. This is full on just the same territory again. It's one thing to be paralleling and getting the same vibes of the first movie but more, and there's another of doing the first movie again but slightly differently. This isn't Back to the Future. We're just right back at both Emmett and everyone around him acting like he's not good enough again, just with different semantics. Last time, he wasn't special. This time, he's not tough. However, the capture and takeoff with all of the principal characters, it's fine, they make a self-aware joke about it. Being blended together with the shots of the sister doing the same thing work really nicely together as a nice match cut sequence. We're never gonna have the surprise of the first reveal ever again, but they incorporate the outer LEGO events within the plot nicely enough. However, then we're right back at the whole bunch of recognizable IB characters rip into Emmett routine from the first movie again, albeit with some decent gags.
Now with Batman gone and Marvel not returning our calls,
that and Larry Poppins are the ones for me.
A spoonful of salt helps the medicine go down.
No notes. But it is just the epitome of, we've done this before, which will just mutate further as the movie goes. You can give Emmett a hard time, sure. Keeping him in the messianic hero position forever would have been super boring, of course. But equally, it does seem weird now that everyone's treating him like crap again. And it's done in a way that doesn't feel investing the second time around, because it's just naturally far less organic. And so, one shutdown later and they kick him out of the vault. He makes himself a ship out of his house though, so at least his character development's not a full retcon. And it's interesting, because it's not necessarily Emmett himself who's gone back a step, it's just everyone else around him. But this movie doesn't just have a one-track problem, the big secondary issue comes into play. From this point on, a lot of this movie is quite static in two principal locations, the other of which we will see in a bit. But compare it to the first movie, where we consistently are going on a constant in-motion adventure that goes through several different locations whilst being frequently on the move. Each location being animated with an impressive level of detail, and is used as an opportunity to express the diversity in the creative worlds of what the LEGO branding can achieve, in the ways of set design and just in playing with all sorts of genres. But here, we just stick around different parts of this ambiguous imagination realm, all with backgrounds too grandiose to take in that trademark LEGO detail. Conceptually, it's fair enough. This is a different approach to the first movie. But practically, this approach comes out far more dull. Except Cloud Cuckoo Land, which very much did this vibe already. There's nothing wrong with keeping things to the sister room, but for what it is meant to be, it kind of all just looks like this one bit.
Susan, would you get our guests something to drink?
That being said, the animation of Queen Whatever I Wanna Be is really creatively done. It actually captures the creative potential of LEGO in a whole new way. And of course, the world around us should reflect that influx quality. However, what it leaves us with is quite an abstract setting. With this, the desert, and Emmett's outer space stuff coming up, we now have three distinctively less detailed settings compared to the original movie. Whereas back then, we had the likes of Bricksburg, the Wild West, Middle Zealand, Cloud Cuckoo Land, Lord Business's Tower, and even the sea was incredibly well detailed. Eye candy all by itself. You could tell with your eyes that everything was made of LEGO. And yes, the surfaces of this palace can be seen to be LEGO in closer shots, but it's just not as tangible as those previous settings, you know? Like, imagine if she had a proper LEGO castle.
Oh no, are we in a musical?
Great tune though.
No ulterior motives, just wanna help where I can.
What's also clever here is you actually have the initial subtext of the villain blatantly trying not to sound villainous only for that ultimately to be a huge double bluff. It's certainly a respectable successor of the song I've so far managed to not put back in your head, but probably have now by just alluding to it. As does the Queen allude a potential arranged marriage situation for Batman.
This chick gets me.
Yeah, that's one of the subplots in this. It's certainly a choice, but also something you can imagine a younger sister doing. Meanwhile, we get some more cool animation as Emmett goes through a portal. I don't know how much of a Guardians nod that was meant to be, but judging by where we go next with him on the Chris Pratt meta commentary, I could see it being deliberate.
Who was that?
Because it's here that we finally meet
Rex Danger Vest.
Indeed, also voiced by Chris Pratt. And I'm not kidding about the Pratt references either.
Galaxy defending archaeologist, raptor trainer.
It's certainly a choice, and reads kind of interestingly since the Chris Pratt fatigue has been a calling the past few years. It's no subtle homage, that's for sure.
And having chiseled features previously hidden under baby fat.
It's a kind of weird commentary on Chris Pratt's career since the first Lego movie, with Emmett representing the humble Parks and Recs route. Between these two mainline Lego movies, this guy went on from sitcom star to one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. We're in the business of crazy statistics today, but they really need to comment on it? I know this character has a message beyond Chris Pratt's career, but I do wonder if it's just a little bit too in-jokey, you know? It's certainly going to be an element that dates this movie horrendously the more time passes beyond this point. It's already a little bit glazing, you know? Also, didn't need to wait for that Universal takeover apparently. The Raptors are all over the shop, as does the plot, as Rex's presence in this movie does make the lore a tad bit more convoluted, as we later learn. We have implications that Finn has time travel in mind for what he's playing, but Rex already knows what happens to Finn and his sister with Armageddon. Yeah, it gets a bit confusing, especially for all the kids watching. And again, other than the Lego pool table, his spaceship doesn't feel especially Lego-y, you know? Like, you have a character whose whole shebang is... You know, we've seen Lego-y spaceships being made in real time in these movies in the past, yet suddenly now, this is the quality we get. Benny would be so disappointed.
That's okay, I didn't really want to build a spaceship anyway, that's cool.
Over to another shiny, supposedly Lego background, we get some more Lego Friends miniatures to enjoy.
Welcome to the Palace of Infinite Reflection.
It's time for a spa session, perhaps a more stereotypical portrayal of a girl's playtime. I think generally they ride that line pretty well though. It's not noteworthy for criticism. So props on them for not going too far overboard, I guess. Does that deserve props? They do make a big deal of Wild Style's hair being dyed, suggesting she's not as dark and brooding as she lets on. An interesting direction with that character.
Are you covering up some undark past?
Kind of feels like it would be okay for her to keep the whole edgy goth attitude, really. Breaking away from everything having to be bright and colorful. Meanwhile, Emmett gets some being tough training. And I think this next gag's deliberate. Or my brain is just well and truly ruined.
You're gonna need to be a master breaker.
Hey there! Thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come along to subscribe if you're interested in more terrible animated movies. You know how the drill goes at this point. So I'll let you get back to the second half of our breakdown of the terrible Lego movie sequel.
You're gonna need to be a master breaker.
This is followed by the discovery of a village that looks like some kind of dystopian 1950s brainwashed suburbia. It's a nice idea, and finally, a tangible Lego environment in this movie, including all the DC characters again, and reinforcing the idea of who Lex Luthor is, because the kids watching won't know.
You're friends with your sworn enemy, Lex Luthor?
Really goes to show how in the dumps DC are at this point in time. I mean, I guess the only movie he's been in recently was the one that didn't do very well, and he wasn't bold until the end of the movie in that one. And yes, Jason Momoa pops back in too here. Weirdly, Aquaman was DC's only movie to cross $1 billion around this time. So of course, they want to get him in there. Just in time for this terrible joke.
General Zod just made homie quack.
He's a Zodsend.
We'll accept the fact that there are 3 versions of Wonder Woman, giant Duplo version included. It's a funnier use of acknowledging the different brands.
Listen to the music, let your mind go.
It does, however, bring us back to the mysterious song that has everyone brainwashed, which does feel like yet another retread of the first movie, honestly. They are pretty upfront about it.
You gotta be kidding me.
But it does feel like the same gag, just more spelt out. It's a nice enough sounding song, it just feels like familiar territory, you know? Which makes it less impactful than last time. A brainwashing song to keep everyone happy but complacent. The visuals in this scene, however, are as great as ever. It reminds you why they had to use computer animation for these, as we get some towering visuals that still look constructed by Lego, yet would be impossible to do without CGI. This goes until Emmett discovers he has fist powers too. Back to the palace with another joke I do like.
I love the chocolate fountain.
Life is so fragile.
Everything is building to the matrimonial ceremony. This movie's world's doing what it does best in heightening its reality around an otherwise atypical game a kid would play with their toys. And another interesting set comes into play here, with Emmett and Rex in what is presumably a box full of Lego pieces. A cornerstone of Lego sets that we somehow didn't see in the first one, but is worked in pretty organically here. Less organic, we then have a let's all go to the lobby gag that I already saw The Simpsons do long before this. Its randomness is appreciated nonetheless. This then leads us to the reunion of Emmett and Wildstyle with another solid gag.
Who is this guy?
So you can see him? I was so worried he was just a projection of what my ego needs deep down.
The story may not be as strong as it quickly falls off a cliff soon enough, but there's still some solid individual gags in this. There's clearly still some remnants of the Lego movie charm in here. Thank goodness it is the sequel. Except for maybe
Social media influencer!
I'm sure the influencer jokes were funnier in 2019, but still, we don't need to date stuff like this. I'll take it over Influencer Smurf though. Meanwhile, we get some musical justification to make this whole marriage feel a little more consensual.
Oh great, more singing right on time.
And this song's pretty good, like the other songs in this movie, but this time it's the Lego Batman movie territory that this feels like it's retreading a bit here instead. It's like a sequel that really wants to go back to the good old days. Because I mean, the Lego Batman movie seemingly did the impossible of managing to make a feature-length character study with this parody version of Batman to glorious results. However, in doing that, they essentially dried up the well on Batman references and in-jokes that they actually had left.
I can fly.
The Batwing can fly.
Which for me, left this song number that once again psychoanalyzes Batman feels just a tad, we've done this before, you know? How is it in just a second movie it feels like it's already run out of steam? I mean, technically there's more than 2 movies. there's 3 in the context at this point anyway. But yeah, that happens, leaving Batman happy to hitch up with this formless assembly of bricks. Whatever lights your bat signal, I guess. Back to the anti-marital bunch. I do love how all these things, including the wedding cake being built, are also shown from Finn's imagination's perspective. His sister just making a Lego cake becomes this big, sinister construction surrounded by furnaces. With Rex and Emmett questioning if Wildstyle's hair means she's brainwashed also gives us an inkling that their take on the situation may not be reliable. After some more Batman marital schmoozing, weirdly the most chemistry an on-screen Batman has ever had with a love interest, the fight between Wildstyle and General Mayhem, that's genuinely her name, gets us back to some master building action. Bit easy to see everything's made of Lego and the characters physically pick it apart. Though, this is a bit too trolls for my liking.
I feel dizzy.
Weirdly, Lego is one of the few toy companies to not produce a toy that does that. There's so much unicorn poop these days. Anyway, time for the heavy-handed message of the movie.
You've changed perfectly.
As we get closer to the idea that they might be doing the wrong thing, as we do with Rex's potential identity.
Don't thank me, thank yourself.
Meanwhile, as Mayhem's mask falls off, we get further setup for where this is going, albeit with a couple clunky lines.
I knew there was some sweetness under that darkness.
Does the job, I guess. This one's better.
I tried to wear a mask and talk tough, a language I thought you'd understand.
Even mentioning the I'm Totally Not Evil song from earlier was genuine, it does get across that overriding story of 2 siblings trying to understand each other, but taking away the wrong messages from it. And then it is revealed that the Queen is in fact the Lego heart Emmett made at the start of the movie, which I guess makes him her dad? And Batman's marrying that love heart? Okay. It's a nice symbol though, as presumably Finn made that for his sister, only to misinterpret her playing with those pieces as her destroying what he made for her.
Wait, if you guys are good, then who's the bad guy?
And the plot reveals itself. Honestly, it's the one choice that wholly takes a different approach from the original, which had the more clear-cut president business. And you gotta feel sorry for Emmett, who was on this wavelength before any of them, only to switch lanes because of the pressure to be tougher put on him by the others. Epitomized by this surprisingly hard-hitting moment.
I like you the way you were.
Sweet, innocent, kind.
The real Lucy would never say that.
And as Emmett destroys the temple, there's some great details going on here. Like, everyone who's been played with by the sister, presumably also voiced by her, all start to cry like presumably her, leaving Wild Style in the human reality position this time.
You shouldn't take my stuff.
All the while, it's time to go full Lightyear.
What, you and I? We and us.
I do have to say, I think I prefer this version of the Lightyear Zurg twist. For one, spending a lot more time to have the Rex and Emmett characters together before the reveal makes us much more invested than just old Buzz turning up. Regardless, it still gets pretty convoluted. Apparently doing this plotline in general doesn't really work. There's implications throughout this movie that there is both Finn's game, but also that Emmett legitimately did travel back from an actual alternative future. I mean, the first movie did tease that the LEGO universe does have a reality and sentience, with Emmett tapping around Will Ferrell's desk and all, which he does here again, anger-powered and whatever. But here, I couldn't blame someone for getting a tad lost plot-wise. I mean, I do like all the time machines getting referenced.
Doctor Who's TARDIS.
But it still doesn't evade the fact that he does actually travel back in time. And then the time machine takes him back to LEGO reality, which is traditionally controlled by the kids. So, was that bit in the real world him actually moving like in the first and actually making a time machine? Or is that still Finn's game? Who knows? Anyway, our Mamageddon has a more straightforward reveal.
This is your fault.
What's going on up here?
The biggest W of which is perhaps finally getting the stepping on Lego bricks gag in there.
I need very close in pain level to childbirth.
It's here we learn, as implied by the 5 years title card, that this fighting has been going on for a long time, and this was the last chance before everything gets taken away. Pretty brutal parenting, honestly. I wasn't in the room for these fights, but must have been pretty bad to outright ban all of their Lego.
I just wanted you to play with me.
It's an interesting switch as well to put Finn in the bad guy position in this one. They somehow managed to make this one gag at the end of the first movie into a whole arc about siblings struggling to play together. And that's pretty impressive.
It's time to put away childish things.
And these comments we've had from Rex also speaks to something we don't really get from the live action snippets. That pressure for Finn to be more mature and less childish internally. Continuing the creative parallels, they go all in on them putting the Lego away as this apocalyptic Into the Abyss event.
It's Purgatory Dave now. What?
Time for a one-of-a-kind dark gag that will go over a lot of kids' heads.
I had theater tickets tonight.
I mean, wow. I also like that the final punctuation on this moment is the sister just giving Finn a quick look before walking away. Into the Abyss, and we head into...
Everything's not awesome. I am so depressed.
We could only avoid this earworm for so long, but it's a pretty effective reprise for this moment in the movie. It turns a song that kind of defined blind optimism into one that starts off accepting that some things do suck, only to then build back into optimism in working through it. It's weird to say, but it's kind of a powerful moment, leading us into Emmett having another kindness speech between Emmett and the villain. Same thing as last time, but it is still a good sentiment.
I'm gonna grow up, but I won't stop caring about the people in my life.
It's time to shatter that idea that growing up means just being tougher. A message a lot of self-appointed figures of masculinity are sadly pushing a lot of guys away from, which is why I can't really fault a movie for pushing against that, even back in 2019. Interchanging between Emmett and Finn going up to his sister, we're left with a message about accepting other people's perspectives and worldviews. It's a tad on the nose, but it's a good message to be putting out there. Still kinda depressing that it took them like 5 years for the two of them to get along though. That's like a lifetime in kids' years. The lines between what's now the kids' game and what's actually happening continues to blur as Emmett and Rex have their real world fight while the Raptors take on the others in the Lego world.
Just the expression of depth of imagination in the subconscious of an adolescent.
Oh, so was that the case with Emmett moving in the first movie too? This lore is completely lost to me, guys. There are elements that go a little bit, too far.
Who you calling so-called?
And as Wild Style enters the fray with her Lego world enforcing abilities, I guess that is just the case now.
You came back for him.
Which leads to Rex disappearing, seeing as Emmett was never abandoned. And as Emmett and Wild Style walk into the sunset, we go to Finn and his sister playing in the garden together. It's admittedly a really sweet way to end the movie. Alongside the best joke they could do, considering Will Ferrell was unavailable to do anything beyond a couple voice lines for this movie.
Honey, where are my pants?
Oh, and the reveal that Wildstyle was one of the people behind Everything Is Awesome, which, considering all the "Are you a DJ" gags from the first movie, fits together pretty nicely as the end moment. And we finish off with the one thing that is definitely a step up from the original, an ending credit scene with a Lonely Island song. It's about as great an end credits as you can do. All about how great end credits are. It's bang on that Lego movie humor, and I'm surprised that no one's done it before to my knowledge. And you know what? Having revisited this movie again, to say that Lego Movie 2 is terrible, I don't think is fully accurate. It's not half bad, actually. In a bubble. Admittedly, I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. The gags are definitely on par with the first, though maybe a little bit less punchy and pacey without that Lord and Miller touch. The storyline with the sisters pretty well executed and at times really touching, along with the wider message, and the match-cutting layers between what's real and what's story works really nicely together. However, there's also a lot of the story that either retreads the previous movies too closely, feels a little bit too static, or is just straight up convoluted in time travel and all sorts in that direction. And without that touch of Lord and Miller, it just doesn't have that frenetic, on-the-run energy of the first movie, nor the surprise of what that first movie was. Unfortunately, when you have a first movie that was excellent, you fall into that classic sequel syndrome of not being as good and missing the mark by a good margin. I mean, as another example, I'd say Toy Story 4 is a really good movie. It's just unfortunate that it was following up from arguably the best trilogy of all time. It's just another one that's quite good. Had the original Lego movie not existed and we just had this as the secondary runner-up, I think this movie would get a surprising amount of praise. It's got some notable red flags that definitely drag it down, and clearly was bad enough to completely decimate the Lego movie franchise under Warner Brothers entirely, but in its own little bubble, I think it's got a whole lot more going for it than what it's remembered by. It's not so far as to call it the amazing Lego movie sequel, but perhaps it goes a little bit above the standards for what we'd say is terrible. I just can't quite call it a terrible movie. Sometimes in doing this terrible series, a movie is surprisingly not as bad as it seems, and it's happened a couple of times on this channel. But that is our thoughts, at least, on what we'll still call in the title, the terrible Lego movie sequel. The question is now whether Universal Pictures will actually make a fictional Lego story, or maybe the Lego Group's movies are doomed for the next 5 years as well. Now, the next video on the list is the cancelled Lego Movie 3. There was gonna be a threequel in this trilogy of mainline movies. It never ended up being made, and now that Lego's not being handled by Warner Brothers Animation, it's properly not going to be a thing that happens. And though it doesn't have Emmett as the main character again, it is a whole new cast and the racing side of the Lego universe, a little bit more Hot Wheelsian. Here's all the things we know about it. Please enjoy this unfinished movie to the roster. The Lego movies. Not just the one 2014 film, but the entire franchise. I think it was one of the biggest surprise hits of yesterdecade. I mean, come on. We all thought this was going to be one big cash grab, right? But that first installment turned out to be a fantastic love letter to all things creative. It truly felt like it had the soul of someone just having fun with their toys and making stuff up as they go along. And it was made by WAG, the Warner Animation Group. These guys were genuine competition for once. The guys who otherwise made Scoob and Space Jam 2 and Tom and Jerry. Look, this movie's great, and I think everyone kind of agrees. Warner Bros. Finally struck some gold, and boy did they want to continue that franchise, but you know why we're here. It's time for more of the cancelled series, because the franchise is dead in a couple of ways, and with it, we'll be covering a couple of cancelled movies. But first, let me give you a brief introduction to how this Lego movie franchise came to be. The development of the very first Lego movie began in 2008. Fast forward to June 2010, and Lord and Miller were in talks to write and direct the movie. Now, these two are the powerhouses of the industry right now, previously working on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs at the time, as well as since doing Spider-Verse and Mitchell's vs. the Machines. Remember those? Truly just in a masterclass of their own. By November 2011, Warner Bros. Had greenlit the movie with a planned release date in 2014. Taking on the animation co-director role and editor on the side was Chris McKay, director of Robot Chicken, and later doing the Tomorrow War as well. But with that stop motion knowledge, Chris would be another staple for that Lego movie vibe that it has. In March of 2012, Lord & Miller revealed the working title, Lego, The Piece of Resistance. Yeah, that didn't stick. As well as a storyline that did. Alright. And by June 2012, Mr. Mario himself, Chris Pratt, was cast as Emmett. We had no idea where this was going to spiral in that time. Anyway, Will Arnett also became the Lego Batman, and it all went on from there. The first movie was a super hit, but I don't need to tell you that. With Warner Bros. Finally taking a W, they spiraled out 1 million productions out of this IP, including a bunch of shorts I didn't realize. You got Batman's a True Artist, Michelangelo and Lincoln, History Cops, and Enter the Ninjago, all popping up as little add-ons of what we've already established. You know, maybe I should spend some time looking at shorts sometime this year. We'll see. Anyway, along with all these new expansions, another project bloomed within the midst of it all, and in March of 2015, Warner Bros. Announced that a third Lego movie spin-off, The Billion Brick Race, was in development. This would have been the first all-new spin-off property to add to the Lego brand. Cool. Making it kind of closer to the first Lego movie than every other project, which, you know, leans on an already established IP. Now we're going to continue going through all this Lego movie franchise stuff in chronological order, but as a bit of a visual clue, when we're hopping specifically on this racing movie, the background border will be turning to this shade of red. We're trying new things for this series. Do bear with me. And let me know if you hate it. Then in 2016, we got one final short in the form of The Master, before news popped in July 2016, Jason Segel arose, along with Drew Pearce, having signed on to this new race project as director and co-writers. Specifically, Jason wasn't directing as much as articles said he was at the time. Anyway, you recognize this guy. He's done stuff like The Muppets, How I Met Your Mother, and on the writing side of things, also The Muppets, and most recently Windfall. Nice. As for Drew Pearce, he's done Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw, Iron Man 3, and Hotel Artemis. Progress clearly was going, but we'll hear about what plot they put together still in a little bit.
Hi, I'm Nick.
Get out of here, Nick!
The Manscaped 4th generation lawnmower trimmer is not to be used in this way. Anyway, we needed another major movie for the general Lego franchise, and thus came the Lego Batman movie. Also a fantastic hit. The first movie was received with a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Batman kept up at a nice 90% in 2017. Following that was all the more shorts. Dark Hoser, Batman is just not that into you, Cooking with Alfred, movie sound effects, how do they do that? And then, not a few months later, post-Batman, we got the Lego Ninjago movie. Oof. You know, I've heard from a friend that this is actually quite underrated and they really like the Edgar Wright-esque foreshadowing happening in one scene, but it did not keep up with the previous works, getting slapped with a 56% from audiences and a lot of mixed reviews. The momentum was falling apart, either from a lack of novelty or just the IP chosen. But the machine kept whirring. Sharky Sharky and Which Way to the Ocean, Zane's stand-up promo. Are these well known? I'm personally doubtful on that, but by this point in the timeline, we've reached August of 2017, where back to the Billion Brick Race, it was announced that George R. Gutierrez was hired to replace Pierce as co-director. Ooh, dramatic already. And at that time, the film was scheduled to release on May 24th, 2019. But clearly, this racing movie was having a bit of a full start in places here. The rest of the Lego factory continued to mass produce. Emmett's Holiday Party, Unikitty got their own TV series started. By February, Gutierrez had left the project. Oh, never mind. What? Yes, just 6 months later, and George had already left. Things really ain't looking good, are they? But the removal wasn't necessarily out of creative conflicts or drama like that. We instead got some direct clarifications a little later that explained the situation like this. I left the film in 2018 when I didn't think it was gonna get made. These days, time is a precious thing to me, so if I don't think something is gonna go, I instantly leave. That's quite a brutal take, but I guess I can kinda respect that. Even still, we've heard nothing of this movie, and actually, a lot of it we hear in hindsight now. But with George's exit, we have some of his tweets and quotes showing how the plotline was to go, as well as some concept art on the side. So let's have a look into just what there was with the Billion Brick Race. First, Drew Pearce took back his previous role and went on to announce that the movie was a Lego racing movie inspired by pre-existing racing films, including the likes of the Cannonball Run. The Cannonball Run? The Cannonball. Oh! Releasing back in 1981, it's your kooky, cartoony racing movie with a bunch of quirky characters not limited to a young Burt Reynolds that looks exactly like Pedro Pascal sometimes. What?
Let me see your driver's license, please.
So I hope this bit wasn't going to be adapted to the Lego movies. Anyway, the Billion Brick Race was intended to send references to all sorts of 80s and 90s cop and action movies. Bit of a weird choice, but hey, if it works for modern kids, I guess it could have worked. I'm less certain in concept, but the imagery changes my mind. Let's have a look at this. First things first, from Gutierrez's Twitter, we have this lineup of a bunch of intended new characters. Definitely a mutual vibe amongst most of them, being that punky biker gang aesthetic. Though you've also got Wheelchair Guy for some nice representation, this winged wrestler guy who I've heard compared to the Nexo Knight Lego sets in a couple places, and a couple of archetypes as well. Some of these also get extended character sheets. Tobin, the cool guy, just kind of reminds me of Daniel Radcliffe from the Playmobil movie. Yeah, remember that film? Frankie, tough punky girl. Brody, tough biker guy, but with a car, not a bike. Tough guy, obviously tough guy. FBI director and built like a gorilla, okay. Jane the secretary, also Jane the mechanic. Secret identity, or just, you know, Jane and the cooler Jane over here? I don't know. Mr. Wonderful, he looks like a lot of fun. Honestly, this lineup definitely gets those wacky races vibes, or Cell Damage if anyone remembers that. Just such cartoony characters all brought together on the same prompt. Then the only other concept art that can be found is this physical photo of a collage from the movie. It's not about how many bricks you have, it's what you do with the ones you've got. A nice message. And actually, kinda like the Cannonball Run, the rules for vehicles are open. Sometimes people are flying, sometimes they swim. This race is actually, again, looking like wacky races, or something with a side of Sonic Superstar races. I mean, it's very Lego to customize on the fly, and would certainly open up to some creative options that way. And actually, some of these sets look great. A city with an engine set piece and a giant Coke bottle, of course. Your classic stadium congregation, moonlit monsters, a mechanical castle, explosive bridges, the set of La La Land, a portal to Lord of the Rings, apparently. I actually really like how over the top these movies have room to play around. I mean, is that SpongeBob and Homer Simpson in the background? You've got a bank robbery, a view of the kooky cars, this gorilla is in a couple places with his banana car, a sunset vineyard, Mayan temples and dragon, volcano tropics, and seemingly these two are our main protagonist if I had to guess, if this isn't just one big ensemble show. Having your classic sunset romance scene and several duo shots. Actually, the more I look at it, the more I see how cool a Lego racing movie could have turned out, as there's room for so much variety and creativity, and just some really cool and hectic characters as well. But alas, things got in the way. But before we reach that final nail in the coffin, here's how the rest of the Lego franchise was coming along, as while this project was blowing out steam, another future production had begun, with the Lego Batman being announced a sequel in December of 2018. Chris McKay again confirmed that the sequel was in development and that he would return to direct the film after doing the first Lego Batman movie. But on a general scale of the Lego movie franchise, by this point it was finally time to bring up the rear on the slowed momentum, where all the stakes were added. The Lego Movie 2, the second part, finally released. Also, underwhelming. Kind of. Audiences seemed to like it. It got an 84%, but it just wasn't bringing back the returns that it used to. The Lego Movie franchise had officially lost steam, especially with two movies stumbling behind on itself, Ninjago and Part 2. And so, things weren't looking good. The Lego Batman sequel, though, had some details we hadn't heard yet, coming out a little more later down the line, but it was eventually revealed that the script was being written by Michael Waldron and Dan Harmon. Notable for the likes of Rick and Morty, of course, but also from Michael, there's Loki and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And from Dan Harmon, also Community, but you probably knew that one already. At one point, Chris McKay went on to say that Dan and Waldron had done a first draft of the script that was really great. It was truly epic, both from an action standpoint and from a story standpoint. I don't know why he's got that voice, but he does now. This Lego Batman sequel was stated to have taken notes from The Godfather Part 2, because of course it was, as well as Boogie Nights. The film would have focused on Batman's relationship with the Justice League, particularly Superman, and his main antagonists would have been Lex Luthor and OMAC. I assume that's how you say his name. I don't know him. All to be tentatively called Lego Superheroes. I've also got here a few extra quotes from McKay that have all the more specificity. The film was to be about the Justice League and where Batman was in terms of the Justice League now, and the struggles they were going through, as well as flashing back to how the Justice League came together. It would have also featured Batman and Superman's relationship, as well as Batman's relationship to a lot of the other members of the Justice League. And Robin, obviously. There was a really great plan for Robin. I wish there was a way for us to go do that movie, because that would have been a lot of fun. And on a thematic front, while the first Batman movie was about Batman's relationship with Robin and touched on themes like parenthood, the sequel was more about friendship and change. It was about how hard it is to change, to commit to change, to stay on the new road you've carved for yourself, especially when maybe you weren't such a good guy to your friends. Your old friends might not be able to see the new you. They might still live in the past. Oof, that's quite a strong theme to get onto paper. However, it of course never came to be. Why? I think it's pretty clear. The Lego Movie Part 2 released and it stumbled its way through. The Lego Movie franchise had officially hit a Lego brick wall, and Warner Brothers decided to pull the plug on their deal with Lego due to these diminishing returns. People just weren't as into it as they first were. But this isn't the end for Lego. It is the end for Warner Brothers, but actual Lego movies will continue, as the Lego Group soon went on to sign a distribution deal with Universal Pictures, giving them a 5-year window exactly the same as Warner Brothers. What this means is all sorts of Warner Brothers characters will not be carrying over like the original cast of the Lego movie or all of the Warner Brothers IPs, but Lego as a brand can continue on under another company. What this means is the Lego Batman sequel is absolutely dead in the water. McKay went on to say that because Lego has left Warner Brothers and is now over at Universal, there probably won't be a Lego Batman sequel, unfortunately. I'm so sorry to say that I don't think they'll be making a Lego Batman 2. Instead, the final Warner Brothers project ended up being the Uni-Kitty TV series that started in 2017 and eventually ended with the Birthday to End All Birthdays in 2020. And all other ties faded away. Although, the Billion Brick Race movie maybe has a chance, as this was stated to be the first spin-off comprised entirely of an original IP for the Lego brand. So though absolutely nothing is confirmed, everything could line up for Universal to pick this one project back up, as it's a Lego branded thing, not Warner Brothers. But I guess we'll just have to see. At the very least, there is no Lego Movie 3. We'll see no more of Mr. Mario's Emmett any further, and all those DC connections will not continue as the Lego movies go in a new direction under new management. We love Lego movies. Sometimes they can be some of the greatest representations of the animation industry for its entire decade. And there's all sorts of Lego movies to choose from, all with varying levels of quality, be them the classic, iconic original, the incredibly, surprisingly good Lego Batman movie, and the sequels are right too. But of course, there is one Lego movie that we don't talk about from the exact same phase and studio of its time, and I haven't watched this movie in years. I once had a friend try to introduce me to it and said it was great, look at all these redeeming factors. The bridge has a pun name, but well, we're gonna see some opinions real soon on this movie. And to be fair, also, it has some pretty big shoes to fill when you're going up against the Lego movie. So much of what makes a Lego movie is the weighing in all of the comedy, the frenetic pace, and the meta-narrative as well. So let's see just how this movie doesn't do it, shall we? This is the terrible Lego Movie. So for a start with this movie, it opens in live action. Yes, gone are the days of having a plot twist reveal that it's all taking place in a live action playtime. It's well established at this point that the Lego universes are just that. So it fits, and then... oh, it's our brand new Will Ferrell replacement. Even though he has CGI staff stunts now, huh? Jackie Chan then slogs us through this scene, monologuing to this child about something or other. He growls at a cat, he looks at antiques, and eventually the camera zooms into a Lego figurine.
No, he's just a kid.
Only for Jackie to give it back ninja eyes now, and thus opens to the story of Ninjago. It's all about seeing things in a new way. That's the theme that Jackie Chan has to keep saying again and again.
His dad is the worst guy in the history of the world.
Oh, okay, so it's a more standard format of storytelling. Okay, so Garmadon here is invading and a news team is there.
I'm Robin Roberts.
And I'm Michael Strahan.
Very suddenly, it's not very Ninjago-y. In fact, if you look at it, really, it looks an awful lot like just Lego Movie standard, you know? But with American TV hosts that are kind of uninteresting. But now that this is getting bombarded into our face, it's introducing the ninjas. The actual, Ninjago part of the story.
Earth Ninja! When will he upgrade to digital?
Yeah, it's just a flat-out calling out of each of the characters, introducing them one by one, and giving each one a very formulaic and poorly written one-liner.
You fellas need to inform yourselves.
And so as we're getting subtly bombarded with this very second scene, I think the flaws of this movie are already starting to show. With it being action scenes here in a sudden montage, there's no real weight to anything going on. It's just a cacophony done in front of you. Similarly, it's a very strange formatting for the jokes. It's a lot of dialogue very quickly that it's hard to keep up. And I'm in my 20s. How a child is meant to perceive any of the lines going on from like these TV host characters is beyond me. But we do slow for our protagonist, Lloyd, son of Lord Garmadon.
It's Lloyd Garmadon, your son?
Yeah, this is the next 5 minutes. The dynamic of this movie is the relationship between father and son, and the very first confrontation's here, and it goes on a while. I could keep rambling at you, and there will still somehow be footage to use from this confrontation scene, but I'll skip it for your own sake. And so now Lloyd is slowly starting his day in his apartment, which just kind of looks like a different clone to the standard Lego Movie again, you know? Tell me this isn't just the Lego Movie ripoff, even though it's literally just a direct spin-off.
Hello.
You know, the Ninjago brand is massively popular under the surface, as long as I understand it. I haven't actually seen it, but I kind of get the idea. But it has a visual aesthetic, you know? There's very clearly martial arts, and thus Asian architecture integrated into its buildings. But this is so clearly Americanized and modern, so that it just looks like a slightly different Lego Movie. And maybe that is part of the issue here. We loved the first movie, but this so far has just felt like it's regurgitating it, but a little bit worse. There's even been ninja action, and it kind of just washed over us because of the execution of it. Anyway, he makes it to school. We're not in the workforce just yet, unlike the, the original that we're going to keep comparing to. Now to join his robo-friend.
She's all...
Ah, baby's first dial-up gag. Kinda your easiest robo-gag, but I'll allow it. This is a movie for kids after all. The other friendship group members all come together, Akira slide in tow, as we get an opposing brief song of Boo Lloyd for being son to the villain. Really, this world is just hammering down even harder on our protagonist than the original. Hey, that's pretty nice. It drones into the siren of invasion. Let's get somewhere, shall we? Lord Garmadon is back again, giving out call-outs in rhyme and everything. And after some vague gags about attacking very specific and niche things, the students dive into their ninja mechs, real Power Rangers style. And hey, that's kind of a thing. They get into their mechs? Is Ninjago not a ninja thing? I'm completely unaware of the Ninjago franchise, but I figured there would be more, I don't know, hand-to-hand martial arts combat to play around with, you know? That would be what would flare the most in animated form anyway, but hey, mechs, it's a nice spectacle, I guess. As much as the water now is real water. So much for the hyper Lego animation style of the first movie. Actually, looking at it, there's quite a lot of additional non-Lego particle effects. But I'll just assume that goes more in line with their original source material of Lego Ninjago, the TV series is. Anyway, everyone's swishing about somewhat against more poor dialogue.
Have you heard my latest track? It's a smash.
It's like they lost how to do all the charm of the first movie. This feels like someone's trying to write the Lego movie, but they have a little bit of imposter syndrome, and it shows. Just knowing it's all about the dialogue gags, but not necessarily putting their best ones forwards, just chucking it out there. There is one good extract a tad later on, when running out of ammo. See now, this is Lego movie humor. It's the nonsense, over-the-top comedy absurdity. It's the escalation of a situation. Everything else so far has been kind of to the numbers in a way that just doesn't grip you like the prior Lego movies. Somehow amongst all of this animation prowess, they lost the creativity and ingenuity of playing with Lego. And as they get into the groove, we briefly have some pop culture hip-hop music to distract from the pretty generic visuals, before finally focusing on something with the school bus. I think that's part of the problem as well. There's so little tension in every moment because we're so zoomed out. Nothing lingers. But eventually, we confront Garmadon.
About 16 years ago, I lost something. I had this guitar in college, and I traded it stupidly for, like, a jacket.
Lloyd, as the Green Ninja, is baiting Garmadon to mention his son that he supposedly loves.
Guy who made probably the best sushi I've ever had in my life. Hairless, crying son for the rest of my life.
Alright, it's like, if you like this one joke, it's alright, but it really overblares itself. Speaking of overblaring itself. What is this? A YouTube poop? I think it just gaslit me into actually enjoying this joke on the very, very, very last one.
Just one day to retire.
Why do I actually kind of want more almost Gen Z style humor? That should be what this kind of series is great for. And then they're confronting again, with more of that same one gag.
Who taught you how to catch? Who taught you how to throw?
No one, because I never had a dad.
And this is the next 5 minutes. We are 20 minutes into this movie. Has anything happened? Is this not just the most basicest of premises and one character relationship overexpanded far too beyond its runtime? Where was the Lego movie at the 20-minute mark? Oh, he was already here. By this point, Emmett had achieved all of this so far. So Lord Garmadon returns to his super base island, and it's like, when you look at all the sets, it looks brilliant. But so much of this style just overlooks it. And there are jokes, but they're also just kind of muted to the side. Lord Garmadon then berates his employees, trying to find the answer of what the next big thing he is to do to the city next, as he promised to the Green Ninja. Firing every poor idea'd employee from the volcano. At least the gags are up front this time. The ninjas all return to the harbor apparently, briefly talking about Lloyd getting emotional with his dad, and then Master Wu makes an appearance, and it's Jackie Chan again. Nice. Not quite sure exactly how this is attached to the live action sequences so far, nor have I really found a notable theme like the first movie had, other than the one character beat. But hey, it's a story unraveling in front of us, somewhat.
But you did not defeat him.
And they're surprised by this.
Until you see things from a different point of view.
Oh, that's the theme of everything, and they will beat you over the head with it. Wu then goes on to call out all of the elemental powers each of the ninja have. They're just avatar benders. And as for Lloyd,
your elemental power is green.
Smoke weed every day.
We've found gag trait number 2, with Lloyd feeling undercooked once again because he practically is in this movie. So he goes to talk to Wu about it before Wu mentions he has the ultimate weapon.
Ultimate weapon!
Whoa, that was a lot. Okay. And Wu's holding on to it because he can't let it go into the wrong hands. Lloyd is the wrong hands. Right.
I need you to lead the secret ninja force.
Huh? So now Lloyd is taken on to the leadership role because Wu is old? Leloid then turns around saying he would give up being a ninja if he could stop being Lord Garmadon's son. To which Wu then turns around with,
"Perhaps it will speak to you."
this movie is a lot of musk. Clearly, it doesn't take itself seriously, and there could be something fun about that. But also, so much of this just doesn't work. The big plotline doesn't really exist. The character traits are basic and overly used, growing long and tired, and we're not even halfway through it. And then Leloid runs away to...
It's the hard knock life for us.
At least finally we can see some more Asian architecture. It is there, it just doesn't look like it in most of the shots. And then Leloid goes to bed skipping a birthday cake. You know, Emmett kinda gets distracted and goes on a whole adventure. And I mean, later Leloid will be going on a big ninja adventure, but first we have just a full, dull day in the city. It's just so boring in comparison. But now it's tomorrow, and Lord Garmadon is back, this time in a mech.
He says you're a big, stupid dum-dum with a dumb face and you smell like a butt.
Well, someone will laugh at that.
A man has fallen into the river in Lego City.
The ninjas are out again in their mechs. Leloid uses his super missile dragon weapons again, using shots that could possibly be exact clones of the last time we saw in these shots, but to be fair, this Lego animation is a lot of work, so I'll give it a pass. Only for him to be defeated this time, as the clone is unaffected.
A man has fallen into the river in Lego City.
Everything is looking awful.
I came here to drink boba and kick butt.
Including the jokes. And so Garmadon reaches the top of Ninjago Tower. Apparently that's all he needs to dominate the world because the mayor is there. I don't know, it's a power thing they explained earlier. Only for Leloid to teleport from the ship to the tower top with the ultimate weapon this time.
Are you crossing your fingers?
No crosses, just chill.
It's a lot of this. Again, it's entirely quips and gags, but very little of them land. We build up to finally get to...
But nothing is happening. Why is nothing happening?
Rumbling is felt in the city as we learn the true power of the ultimate weapon. That's nice! Kinda. A laser pointer is making the cat go crazy. Cool! But integrating the cat into the city is a little strange. I guess I can appreciate it as bold, but how does this work in the logic of playtime? Did all of these events already happen because Jackie Chan is just narrating, telling us the story? Has he invented this scenario so the cat's not even actually jumping around, it's just part of the story in his head? Because there is no Lego set we're gonna see in any of the live action sequences, it's just the beginning and end that we even see Jackie Chan in his face and the cat from the beginning of the movie, but it doesn't come together. There is no stitching in the middle, it's just let me tell you a tale. And then a tale happens. At least when the sister got integrated in the second movie, you still saw that it was their building, they're probably playing with the toys and being a little rough. In the first movie, of course, I don't need to explain it, the live action's all about gluing with the sets. That all comes together in a representative, metaphorical playtime way. But this, there is no real version. So it's just a weird mix that, It's the magic of the Lego movie draining away with the runtime. But yeah, I guess I can appreciate it as a bold move. It's a new integration, I'll give them that. But with this single weapon, every ninja mech is totally destroyed. It is a catastrophic loss for the team.
I'm not gonna cry.
Dad. And once more, this confrontation of the same two characters. Almost no one else has spoken in this movie, and it's halfway done. This needs a drinking game at this point. Finally, another 5 minutes later or something, ending in...
I wish you weren't my father.
As the city is Garmadon's.
Hey, Coco. Glad you made it to the party.
Mum and Dad are fighting now. With nothing too new being learned, the mum learns Leloid is the Green Ninja, Garmadon speaks, and then eventually we loop back to Leloid amidst a disaster, mechs all ruined as he spots Wu's ship in pieces. The other ninjas are also upset with him for using the ultimate weapon.
We were the only people that didn't hate you. And now we hate you.
And then Wu reappears, telling the ninjas to get the ultimate weapon.
Where is this thing?
Right, great, thanks, that was also a lot. Anyway, where is this thing? It's on a trail of stuff. It's actually the only thing I remember from my first time viewing of this. Each location has pun names for future events. It's almost like Shakespeare in the foreshadowing prologue, but actually calling this anything close to Shakespeare would be a crime against literature. The ninjas argue that they can do it. He asks the ninjas to give Lloyd another chance and says that all of them will now go. With 1 hour left, and now the core journey begins. You know, the actual Ninjago-y bit. Also, Garmadon is watching and going out to the jungle as well. But since we've only got an hour, we need to spin through this with a mini montage of progress. Again, with more wind instrumenting. And just like that, Garmadon is immediately upon them. So Wu tells them to hide. He'll handle them.
You!
Finally, it's something hand to hand, so it works a little bit more now. Though the past 50 minutes have kind of burned me out on this movie already. Thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. As per usual, do check below to see whether you are subscribed, and come along and join us for the discussions over on our Discord server. Not only can you give suggestions for future terribles, you can just chat with the community if you want. And I'm always there lurking. I see every single message on there. Anyway, enough of the brief plug, I'll let you get back to the rest of the terrible LEGO Ninjago movie. It's great how suddenly now, Wu's staff has smear frames, and how Garmadon learns to be better with the bamboo all around him. Or how there's gags about how LEGO pieces stick together.
Get over my head! Hey, get off my foot so I can kick you in the head!
This is a LEGO movie action scene. You can see the train of thought between all of the characters. You can see all sorts of details if you went frame by frame. This is what we're looking for. This is what I want to see out of a LEGO story, and it's what's been missing up to this point, bafflingly. This is nice, it's creative, visually appealing, not to mention all the quips in between. Until eventually, Garmadon is caged, and Uncle Master Wu...
A man has fallen into the river.
Well, he did say it on the trailer description.
To cross the bridge of falling mentors.
But with 45 minutes running left, it's the real tale. Ninjas and Garmadon together. With a lot of rambling on gags along the way.
I wrote the book on Ninja Legends.
Why are there so many one-star reviews?
It's trolls.
But they decide to take Garmadon cage in tow. And it's more dialogue. Asking about his age, why he has extra arms.
At first I was like totally freaked out, and sometimes I get self-conscious about it.
Everyone is starting to like Garmadon, whilst Lloyd is getting more mad about it all. And now there's a fork in the road. They've got to make a decision. They take the bad path because Lloyd liked the good path. Okay. It's a skeleton graveyard, which is a nice staple of LEGO visuals. LEGO skeletons are used so much in all sorts of things from the games and as an iconic model, so to see them somehow adapted in a movie works great. I can see why it didn't work in the original LEGO movie or something. Also on the side are the fired commanders from like 20 minutes back. And now the ninjas are totally worthless in battle. They're useless without their mechs and don't use any elements despite Lloyd's suggestions. So Lloyd is caged too now, alongside Garmadon. More arguments between the two ensue.
No one ever says mean things to me when my dad knocks over their Pilates studio.
It's just constant, you know? It's a bit much. So they're both gonna get dunked into the upcoming volcano. Honestly, it sounds like a mercy to us audiences. And on the side, the other ninjas weren't captured. Only Lloyd and Father. Okay. So they witness it all from a distance. Oh, and also the Robo-Friend has all the martial arts films in his database, so they give us another one of those photorealistic montages.
Today's Martial Arts Movie Club! Told you you're wasting your time, I vowed to give up that way of life! Assault Hunter! Judo Future Cocktail 3! Blood Game of 2! Whoa!
And I think, as well, this is part of the problem. There are clearly actual movie references in this splay out, but who's the joke really for? Are kids laughing at these gags? I think it will all go completely over their heads. All of these jokes, all of this dialogue quipping seems like it's aimed for parents, someone with a stronger grasp on all the tropes and words. It's almost as if the writers wrote this movie for themselves, and in doing so made something so very boring to actually watch. The visuals are great, but the action is awful. There is so much dialogue and so little theming or heart that it's like reading this movie is. Oh, and also I guess we're meant to surmise that the gang were watching all those movies during this time? Uploading it to their brains? Well, they reference that they can learn martial arts so fast, so we're running with it. Alright, I guess that nonsensical Lego vibe is what we want, but at least do some of the grounding work, please.
I learned so many things so fast.
I'm ready.
And so they blaze on in with all of their martial artsy stuff. They can do it now. Off you go.
Lloyd,
And then the ninjas intrude immediately. Again, not really shown as much of a heist, you know? It could have been a great journey towards the volcano top, but instead it's just random knockouts and a couple of focus shots. And then they're there.
I'll be in charge of the tunes. Please not Jim Croce. Jinxed us.
But eventually, more dialogue quips later, we get a montage of music pop culture crammed on top again. My favorite. Because it's Dad teaching Lloyd to throw, as the ninjas attack back at the ambush. And it works! Lloyd can throw thanks to his dad.
What is this? Smiling.
And then it all falls apart. Lloyd is pushed to the ground and suffers a catastrophic injury.
I think it was my arm. Is it bad? Is it bad? I don't want to look.
Again, kind of cool an idea. Lego are toys. They are breakable. Just Toy Story 2, but let's see where this goes. Garmadon is freaking out a little bit, wants to call his mother. I'd like that briefly. And eventually, after more prop gags, he finds the arm to return it.
This is gonna be agony for a while. On the count of 12.
No. I don't want to do 12.
And then there's a million more lines and gags before anything happens. Once again, I can ramble at you for a solid minute and there will still be footage to show of Garmadon freaking out and making quips, gags, and comedy bits about this missing arm before anything properly, finally, actually, seriously, genuinely is about to going to happen.
Oh, wish your mom was here to do this.
And eventually, it's put into place. Eventually.
It was pretty good.
And just like that, they get out of there. In a helicopter of all things. Real clouds now as well, okay. And this next scene's all about the fatherly element of teaching to drive, even though Lloyd already can, only to lead to a standard, I need a change of armor gag. This really is like baby's first jokes. It's so basic. And that's coming from me, I write comedy on the side. And as for the end of the scene...
This is going real... Goat! Go!
Alright, it's something. Enjoyable? I think the second half is better than the first so far, but woof, that first half takes the wind out of the movie. It's the temple of fragile foundations. Repeating the words, it's so important, and we'll see that one soon enough.
I will lead you through this, Paris.
Oh, look, a light switch.
It's Garmadon's childhood home. Time for backstory from the family pictures. To be fair, there are a lot of questions going, so let's get some lore in here.
It's Lady Iron Dragon, my hero!
Mom was a ninja?
And yet, he was surprised that his son was the Green Ninja. Also, spoilers, we're never gonna see Lady Iron Dragon again. She doesn't use any martial arts later. Wasted potential. Anyway, flashback time, and we see the mother fighting the skeleton army as he was speechless of her looks. Side note, why couldn't this be the movie? It kind of looks more interesting as a tale of a big war, you know, many characters, hand-to-hand combat action. This would have been a great prompt. Or is this the Lego movie version of asking for the Justice League Snyder cut? It does kind of feel like the dark side battle scene after all.
It was love at first fight.
Oh, that's what this was all leading to. So then just like that, I guess she semi-switches sides. Fighting both sides against each other. That's an interesting dynamic, I'll give him that. And we then come to learn that he left after a while because upon coming to the city of Ninjago, he wanted to build it on the ashes of the city, but she didn't want a conqueror, not for the life of Lloyd. And Garmadon laments that he could have changed back then and cries fiery tears.
But I didn't.
Garmadon now is really emotive in talking about Lloyd's mum, despite the start of the movie where he forgot he even had a son throughout. It's like two different characters here and no sense in between. Sure, they've bonded, but why has his entire opinion switched?
I never should have let you go.
And next they find a chest with each of the respective elements. And what's nice is the items breach beyond the black bars, which is very cool and nice. The movie is instinctively very artsy. It takes a lot of animator and organizational strength to make this. It's fascinating how something fell apart somewhere along the line. But now we can loop back to Ninjago City as...
Father and General Number 1.
It's the shaky foundation. Garmadon still hasn't really changed. He knows his son will be a great conqueror.
Save the city.
What?
You'll be a hero.
And he rejects. It's time for another fight. A group fight this time, and hand-to-hand too. Yes, this is what I call for. Plus, you have the added element of this MacGuffin chest being desired and thrown around, etc. This is brilliant. The fight scene's kind of short, but you can see all sorts of great elements and character thought processes if you really slowed this footage down.
Catch it!
I got it. Catch it. I got it.
Oh, the Lord.
And Garmadon runs away with the ultimate weapon. We're in the final 20 minutes now, and you know, the past 15 minutes I think I enjoyed. But a movie is only as good as the sum of its parts. It's like a reverse up. Everyone adores the first 5 minutes of that film, on the rest. And with this movie, you have so much undercooked stuff to just get through before any of the good stuff, with a far inferior plotline and characters. Like, do the other ninjas really have any personality that we've seen up to this point? Other than, that one's a robot. But it's time for the twist. Lloyd is listening to Wu's past lines.
Stay on the right path. To find you in the pyramid.
The final weapon is inside of you. And Lloyd is calling it out to the other ninjas. And so they're posing, bringing it out.
I've got the power!
Oh, way to undermine it. I can't play any more of this out loud, but it's more pop culture music montage. The perfect way to just blanket over any problems and just make it a crowd pleaser, I guess. The ninjas can now cast the elements alone.
I think I made it worse!
But they leap out in time, with Wu coming in to catch them.
Lloyd saved us.
And now it's time to save the city from the giant kitty.
Ninjago!
It's the big final battle scene. Garmadon brings out the weapon pieces only for...
Take that!
What?
All the while the ninjas are using their real moves. Funny how they just needed to unlock the powers and now they have complete control over it, but oh well. I guess we've plenty of footage of learning the elements from other franchises.
Water, earth, fire.
And this is all there is for the final battle. This one sequence is all of it. After this is the emotive ending with very little action to it, so this very brief bit of elemental usage, done in the middle of the mess but with no real trajectory of progress, just like the heist scene, is it. Just occasional shots. This is the final battle. It's another case of the action just being so undercooked somehow. Perfect for washing over you and barely hitting with impact like the legacy of the first movie.
I'm the greatest warlord of all.
The ninjas arrive on the scene, but Lloyd is sympathetic to Garmadon, saddened for him to be taken by the cat whilst the city calls for them to take out them both. He takes off his disguise and reveals his identity, and then it's his big surprise move to be seen.
When people look at you, they see a monster.
All the while, Garmadon is listening from the inside. He talks of being judged unfairly, and then goes on to say,
I forgive you. I'm sorry. When I said, I wish you weren't my father.
Instead, he wishes they didn't fight at all. Yeah, me too. There was a lot of confrontation scenes. Dialogue going again and again and again and again. But he wishes he could get his time back.
I need my dad. I need my dad.
You know, as someone who literally grew up without a father figure in his life at all, I think I might also have a bit of a bias against this movie. I know a lot of kids' movies are all about family as being the most central thing, but like, no, you don't need a dad. Gunning for this message of every kid has to have two parents can sometimes come off as a little excluding to those children that uncontrollably don't have the support of two parents. I know if I watched this movie as a kid, I'd probably be feeling pretty bittersweet about hearing this guy whining about not having a dad whilst already having a super supportive mother. It would have made me feel less supported in my own life, and I wonder if that kind of effect ever did hit some child who did see this movie at such an impactful time in their life. The Lego Movie had a message that struck to everybody about the importance of everyone. But this time, it's lamenting a father in a way that just isn't as universal or impactful as his predecessor. And considering the fact that Lloyd's life isn't necessarily worse because his father's not in the picture, it's simply him asking for more. In a world that dislikes him for being the son of the guy, sure, but I don't think that's really the message going on here. And I don't think any other kind of movie has made me feel excluded before, which is incredible to have made that kind of mistake in a kid's movie. And I guess you could make the argument that every time a parent dies, that's also kind of exclusionary to kids that really do go through their parents dying at a young age. But at the same time, I think that's still decent storytelling to develop the characters' arcs of the characters they're trying to build. This, for whatever it's trying to do, I think just doesn't nail what it's going for. This feels undeserved and makes Lloyd seem more like a whiny child begging for more. It doesn't feel earned in a way that works or is satisfying or universal either. But anyway, Garmadon cries fiery tears, remember? And it irritates the cat's gag reflux.
Oh, whoa!
Dad? And that's that! The cat now just inexplicably hangs around as more Lego figures prance around in front of it when surely at some point it would pounce on them again out of curiosity, but okay. And the mum comes to coddle as well.
Okay, you still don't have fingers and toes? That's good!
Lloyd says his sorries to his mum for taking her for granted when she fully supported him. Kinda hard to see where this came from since there wasn't really much of a conflict between those two, to be honest. It has entirely been based around this child and his father the whole time and no other characters. Could have done with more of a build up on that end for sure, but it's an emotive ending, blah 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 blah.
Found two people to hug me over here.
Then Lloyd goes on to talk to Wu about how green connects all of the ninjas. That's why he's the element of green, or the way he connects his family. He's the glue that brings everyone together. And Wu responds, some powers you can't see are the most important powers of all. Okay, family, glue, people pleasing. And as Wu flies away with his epilogue paragraph.
And the city of Ninjago.
Where are you going?
Don't know how they made the cat subtly so docile. That conflict is practically never addressed again for the city, other than a stroke on the nose, but alrighty.
Does that mean I'm a ninja now?
No, all you did was to listen to a story.
And it was all a story being told by Jackie Chan. No real sets, unless it was past playtime. How did the cat get involved? Where was it? And he hires the kid for martial arts. Oh, okay. What a weird ending and a weird movie. So many formulaic pieces from the first movie just kinda lost their way in translation. The live action segments had a celebrity cast, but with no real connection between humans, no connection to the Lego universe, and no real heart in its scenes. Whilst the visuals of this movie run with the punches, but never hit hard. Nothing is impactful or stands out, and the movie instead just repeats the same dynamic over and over and over again. And there was probably a fifth scene that they did the same confrontation conversation. The actiony twist of the pieces were inside them all along is just kind of generic again. It really is baby's first everything, which is incredible to hear as a sequel spin-off series successor to something as creative and intuitive as the original Lego movie. They even could have taken it more literally, with inner peace being properly inner peace. As in, their elemental props are literally inside their bodies. We even see inside one of their bodies to hint at the green prop on the inside for later or something. They could have done that. The family emotive talk was nice, but again, I think that movie looks more interesting because the city action with the mechs, or even the elements, is just generic action. The highlights are in the actual martial arts fight scenes, but they are also pretty much all worse than the initial Lego movie, because it was a lot less bombastic along the way. One chest goes flying about, and the crabs were a thing once. I'm sure there were intentions behind photorealistic water and clouds because maybe the Ninjago series had that aesthetic, but I think in doing so, it ironically perfectly emulated the idea that this is a Lego movie with a lot of the Lego movie charm removed. Taking a 20-minute tale and stretching it to 80, and presumably disappointing fans of the movies and fans of the series alike. It's fun and enjoyable, but it's not a well-rounded and polished final project. Just listen to half of those jokes, and they really tell the full story. Definitively, it is the terrible Lego movie we don't talk about. So hey, that's fun. I originally drafted up an entire script breaking down the first and second mainline Lego movies, mashing together comparisons, what made the second one fail, and how it could be turned around for a potential threequel. only to realize that the Lego movie isn't coming back, or at least it's not confirmed yet beyond a simple idea Chris Pratt mentioned once. There goes all that hard work. If it does get confirmed, then someone please poke me, because the video's already pieced together. No, the Lego movie is coming back, just not the mainline ones yet. Today we're talking about the twisted reality of the superhero franchise of films with the Lego Batman movie. And after wasting 5 hours watching the other two films and essaying about them, why not change directions entirely and jump to this bandwagon instead? Plus, my last B-movie video was manually taken down by DreamWorks in some regions, despite it actually being a review, and a positive one at that. Gotta love YouTube. Now, prior to making this video, I hadn't actually seen the Lego Batman movie before. I know, I'm sorry, I heard it was good, but it just didn't line up with me for some reason. The movie released in February 2017, same year as Ninjago, and was the start of the Lego movie series' decline in success. But not the case for the Lego Batman movie itself, since it garnered pretty favourable reviews and was an all-round success, with part of its success being that it wasn't trying to be too much like the original Lego movie, but was a great little joy in its own right, and a beautiful love letter to DC fans with its crazy reach of pop culture references to practically every single Batman appearance prior. And these successes were clearly felt as a sequel has been confirmed to be in production by the director. So enough talk about the general achievements of this film, let's dig back into the year of 2017 and see just what made this film the success it is, and how its elements could potentially be reimagined in an upcoming sequel. So as I said before, in 2017, I skipped out on this film. I'd generally been a bit of a superhero nut, watching every Marvel superhero movie, and even popping in to see Batman v Superman, boy was that a mistake, but it was in the trailer sequence before this film that the Lego Batman trailer was dropped on me. Now, during this time in my life, I was in the middle of university, with the trailer hitting halfway through my first year and the actual film dropping in my second. Deadlines were high, I was at a dramatic point in my life, and the Nintendo Switch was coming out in like a month, but can you blame me not seeing it really? The Lego Batman was the last thing on my mind, but with nothing standing in my way in 2019, let's finally delve into this supposed lost gem. And I gotta say, it completely blew me out of the water. Somehow this successor to the Lego movie managed to keep so much of that wit and charm from the original and place it in a whole new scenario. Plus, Batman plus comedy is a combo that works so incredibly well, despite the source material clearly not being built for it. I can see within the first 5 minutes of this film why so many people find this guy to be the best rendition of Batman. I mean, he's saying what we're all thinking. So the movie begins with a clear establishment between the relationship of the Joker and Batman. Makes sense, right? They are the two most iconic characters in this Gotham world. But right from the very get-go, this movie sets up their connection as being something entirely different to what we've seen before. Kinda. Joker goes forth with this crazy bombastic plan, and Batman is there in full force to stop him. And during that final confrontation, it becomes clear that the two don't quite see eye to eye on their pairing, with Batman having virtually no regard for Joker as a prioritized villain, citing Superman as being a far bigger rival. Meanwhile, the Joker is absolutely crushed by the rejection and is obsessed over the idea of being the ultimate #1 villain in Batman's eyes. This sort of relationship isn't overtly new in the Batman universe, as some versions of Joker do seem heavily dependent on Batman to give them any kind of purpose in life, but this clear, upfront presentation, alongside the jokey atmosphere of the whole Lego movie, immediately puts us in a whole new setting and tone for a film with characters we've been able to recognize for decades. And my god is it refreshing. Sure, The Dark Knight is all about darkness and tragedy and all sorts of grim surroundings, but somehow, mashing him into a world like this works. It works incredibly fantastically. So let's start off with those jokes, shall we? Batman as a franchise isn't really known for its jokes, and when it does try for some, they're a little unexpected and almost unfitting. Though not always the worst things in the world. But here, in the Lego Batman movie, there's jokes absolutely everywhere. The very first seconds of the film have this witty meta commentary from Batman and his cartoonized character traits, and that adjustment of his personality alone opens up for so many other avenues to be explored and to entertain with, but we'll certainly get to that later on. Many of the jokes choose to use the source material to its full advantage, as they're not limited to this version of Batman or the immediate events going on in this particular rendition, unlike every other Batman appearance. There are a multitude of references to prior Batman sources, and all are given the comedic tongue-in-cheek treatment to be both a love letter for fans as well as comedy for all. Whether that's through Alfred describing all of Batman's filmic appearances and connecting them to weird phases of his life, or pointing out an extended collection of Batman villains of the past, including Condiment King, who is a real yet unbelievable Batman villain in concept. The delivery on so many of these jokes work fantastically to simultaneously respect that massive history being held on the shoulders of this massive franchise, whilst reinventing it and creating all the more witty writing through presenting it in a refreshing and hilarious manner. Every time a moment like this pops up, it is just so enjoyable to see. Then there's the little things like the classic Batman theme popping up mid-action scene or from the honking of a vehicle. But let's get back to Batman himself. After all, this is an entirely new version of the superhero once again, and he alone stands out as one big highlighted joke for the film to play around with. Now, I'm really bad with celebrity names, especially voice actors, but finding out that the VA for this guy is Will Arnett and finding out that they were also the voice behind BoJack Horseman really threw me off for a moment. And then it made all the more sense, and I couldn't unhear it. But no, this Batman is his own beast of comedy, with many of the new standard character traits he owns being extrapolated into a whole new form, with him being narcissistically confident, childish in demeanor and the choices he makes, as well as really driving home the idea that he's just not much of a people person, and not really a nice guy to be around most of the time. Some of these elements are undeniably prevalent in other Batman series, but here all of these pieces come together in a way that is entirely new for the character, and yet somewhat makes sense. And that suspension of disbelief is certainly something that the script uses to its advantage. You think Christian Bale's Batman would ever make songs about taxes and leg day? No, probably not. But an over-the-top cartoony Batman that's all about money and physical prowess, I guess could kinda get into that for a quick gag. The Lego Batman is a caricature of himself, and it's fantastic to see what new scenarios this brings with it. I love that even though he is a multi-billionaire with seemingly everything he could ever want, almost, he still struggles with the simpler things like a dodgy HDMI cable or simple microwavable food. It's something that makes sense for a character as lonely as Batman, and yet isn't really explicitly explored or made fun of in any other forms, as the comedic style simply doesn't fit the tone and versions of every other respective Batman. This closed-off, dismissive version of Batman also allows for jokes with the rest of the cast of the Justice League, as it's revealed in this movie that they went ahead and had a Justice League party without Batman, simply because he is the least likable character of the gang. Again, opening up all of them for jokes that wouldn't really fit the tone of their other appearances. And then, very much like the original, there are all sorts of Lego-related witty jokes, such as how below Gotham there is nothing because the city is just a big Lego piece with nothing physically below it. Or how there's meta jokes about holding the music because this is clearly all part of one big film. The cartoony, over-the-top vibe of this film also allows for some physics to go out of the window too, like how when Alfred pops up unexpectedly during an emotional moment, Bruce accidentally kicks him across the room and into a piano, which, although is kind of a lol random kind of joke, I really like it for how goofy and exaggerated it all is. Subverting the cliche of characters popping up out of nowhere and giving us a moment in a scene that seriously could not be replicated in any other version of Batman for a multitude of reasons. And this example works quite nicely as a segue into our next point about just what makes the Lego Batman so good and exhilarating when thinking about a sequel: the direction and style of the film. Obviously, with the massive shoes left by the original Lego movie, the Lego Batman movie had a lot of pressure to achieve that magic a second time. And while that pressure clearly got the better of certain other Lego spin-offs, here, a lot of the frantic charm is kept and accentuated all the more, which wholeheartedly surprised me in the end. The first movie is sporadic and in your face, constantly jumping from one beat to the next in a chaotic cacophony of fun that just makes you want to break down the film frame by frame. And the Lego Batman movie very much has that same vibe in many of the action scenes. It continues the continuity of Batman being a master builder, which only allows them to show off more of the same tricks of flashing around an object as it's built to some upgraded form. It's great to see again. That being said, there are some interesting diversions from the original directorial choices and techniques used to represent the world. I don't entirely like the changes, but they're minor, so I wouldn't exactly say that they are an overall negative point on the film. But unlike the first, not everything is made out of Lego bricks anymore. One of the very first scenes of the movie shows real smoke. Not some obscure Lego brick animation to represent the movement of smoke, it's just the real thing. And in this scenario, it almost seems to heighten the Lego experience. It's not invasive and doesn't exactly tarnish the legacy of the shot, but it's a tad less of that Lego aesthetic that we saw from the first film. But that whole idea does also pop up elsewhere, not in smoke form, but water. I'm obsessed with the continuity of the first film, how the entire sea, or just a simple shower, uses tiny blue bricks to represent water. For the Lego Batman movie, when Batman does a comedic spit take with water, he spits out actual water and not any tiny blue bricks. It's tiny stuff, I know, but I kind of feel I would have preferred if Batman actually spewed out some Lego bricks here. To me, it just could have been upgraded. It was, I don't know, it's tiny, alright? Quite a nitpick, right? We'll go back to something a bit more normal now, shall we? The sound design. The Lego Batman movie does something else that subtly appeared in the first movie, I believe, though here it's a tad more noticeable. Or maybe I was just looking out for it more here. The exterior context of this world is that everything is moving because a kid is playing with it, right? That's the whole concept of a being playing with Lego toys, right? And so because of that, there are no real guns. The kids don't have an actual gun to reference the sound of a gunshot, all they have is their voices. And that bleeds into the Lego movies too. Every sound effect is made through human voices, or at least a good chunk of them are. I mean, just listen to this. Only encapsulating more that idea that this world is fake and a moment of play for humans, putting these stories together themselves. That's awesome attention to detail. I hope that is across the entire film, because I just love that idea. And then there's your standout one-off moments of cool direction. You know, there's not much to say there. It's cool, you know? Looking at the bigger picture, all of these pieces come together to make the Lego Batman's direction and style an amazing piece of work. It successfully keeps up that intensity of the original with some new ventures and upgrades if you want to look at it that way, and small attention to detail which only enrich the whole experience further. So let's stop dilly-dallying around all of the techniques and choices behind the Lego Batman movie and actually talk about how the story all comes together and how comedy can possibly be achieved in the gritty world of Batman's Gotham. Because apparently it was achieved, garnering some fairly good scores on reviewer sites despite the strange combination of the two elements. And it certainly impressed me. So the early stages of the film's story are all elements you can recognize pretty quickly. Joker and Batman fight, Batman is home feeling lonely and off to himself, dealing with his own isolation. There's moments of genuine emotion from Batman, which though you think would be unfitting in a Batman world this cartoony, to me, I almost find that tragedy and emotion is all the more hard-hitting when it is surrounded by comedy from every other angle. The contrast, at least to me, always seems to hit a bit harder. Anyway, Batman is then going to a formal event as Joker is making plans for his next big rival move. At the event, Batman meets and unexpectedly adopts Dick Grayson and meets the new commissioner and falls a little in love with her, though that is quickly unrooted as she demands for real change, real laws, teamwork and accountability with Batman, everything he hates. Joker then crashes the party with all of the DC gang, fights and surrenders, allowing himself and most everyone else to be caught and taken to Arkham Asylum. Now they're off the market, and so Batman has nothing to do. It's not exactly like he can be with his family now. With Batman in a rut, he's forced to take responsibility and raise his son, who's been living in the manor for like a week, Dick Grayson. He does this by adopting him as a sidekick to Batman and using him to get what he wants, the Phantom Projector, from Superman's lair to chuck Joker into the Phantom Zone, something far more severe than Arkham Asylum. The perfect execution of the heist seems to resonate with Batman as he feels emotion and pride for seemingly the first time, I guess. With his plan all coming together, he banishes Joker to the Phantom Zone against the wishes of pretty much everyone around him, as he wants to stay unregulated, and the event even seems to be exactly what the Joker himself wants. Surely a defeat for Batman then. Add on to that, Harley Quinn has been out and about this whole time and uses the opportunity to crash in, take the projector and free all of the villains in one fell swoop. Meanwhile, in the actual Phantom Zone, the Lego movie once again flexes its IPs by giving us a villainous version of the great character conglomerate with Voldemort, the Eye of Sauron, King Kong, Wicked Witch, Medusa, and Daleks. It's the same concept as before, but man is it goofy and fun to see them all share the screen together. And all of them are released from the Phantom Zone, ready for a massive finale. Sauron finds the location of the Batcave and all of them inhabit there, now renaming the place as Joker Island. Joker learns of Batman's secrets, such as his love for rom-coms, utilizes all of his Bat vehicles for some more eye candy, and that
Bruce Wayne is Batman.
roommate?
Batman, Robin, Barbara, the Commissioner, and Alfred are a four-piece team now who have a whole fight sequence on a plane with dramatic savior moments as one would expect in these kind of action scenes. And Zoran is defeated by the Sea Monster, clearly not quite meshing as well as a team. And though there's a happy families moment between the four of them, Batman suddenly rejects them all and shoots them away. Batman works alone. And so Batman confronts the Joker alone and it doesn't quite go in his favor, though it's a great scene about how the Joker rants about truly hating Batman. And with that, Batman is banished into the Phantom Zone himself, where he gets to self-reflect on how he belongs here anyway. After all, he's a guy that's done a lot of bad things really. And in a moment of clarity, he barters his way out, promising to return if he can save his friends and banish the other villains back into their place. And with one final battle, Batman appears, apologizes but is unforgiven, and the DC villains Joker had abandoned join their side for a two-piece army crashing against each other. Slowly, the villains are sucked away into the Phantom Zone one by one, though Joker's plans of blowing up the city with a bomb succeeds, splitting the city in half, and the only way to keep it together is by using their heads and physically piecing their Lego heads end to end. Though it's not enough. Joker needs to be convinced. If there's no Gotham, there's no Joker fight either. And after admitting that Joker is important to Batman in a great comedic spin of kind of romance, they connect and the city is saved. Batman heads towards the Phantom Zone but is granted freedom by Phyllis, the talking brick of that zone, and everyone leaves happy. Joker and gang are content and Batman lives his normal homely life with his new family. The film starts on black and ends on white. A whole mini journey of a new type of Batman, and yet incredibly familiar to everything we know. Of all things, the story really holds up to me. It has all of the key elements I would hope to see. There's witty gags and jokes from this comedic take on Batman, the Lego sense of it shows off its dynamic range with all sorts of villainous appearances, and the script allows for jabs to be made at every other Batman appearance in existence. And though the fact that there's so many characters meant that there was little individual development for every single one of them, the most important was that of Batman and Joker's, and there was certainly plenty to divulge there. The parody on their relationship also worked great, whilst also gave us something a tad refreshing, and the other characters that did appear were fun all the way through. And with a sequel in the works, we can only expect even more of the best of them. I personally loved Alfred in this rendition, though I always love Alfred honestly, and I cannot wait to see what new directions they choose to take this goofy world of Batman. Will Joker still be the absolute center point of the film, or will another DC villain take the reins? Give me more Condiment King, dammit! Or if they do want to spread out their IP wings again, who could possibly take the form? Superhero knockoffs? Marvel? I highly doubt that one. Whatever the case, after seeing the massive success and the ability to keep the magic up from the original film, I'm confident that whichever direction it takes, I for one will be having a whale of a time. So it's LEGO week this week in the UK for some reason, as we've only just gotten the release of Piece by Piece, despite it coming out a few weeks earlier in the US. Yada yada, something about half terms. But at the same time, there's also news about reviving LEGO movie live action reboots coming. We'll talk about that soon enough. But first, since I finally got to see this damn movie, I thought I'd put together my thoughts for a little review for you. Because this is probably one of the weirdest installments of the 2024 animated roster. Like, I can't be the only one to think that this movie would be dead on arrival, right? Like, a LEGO documentary? How in the hell would that work, and who thought of this? Well, despite it clearly being on a bit of a back foot, considering the last few LEGO movies were absolutely stellar, boundary-breaking pieces of animated art, turns out this movie, somehow, is actually pretty damn good. I know, I'm surprised as you are. This was not on my bingo card, I'll be honest. But yeah, let's take a look at the Pharrell Williams biopic told through LEGO, piece by piece. Now, to be fair, if I was Pharrell Williams making a biopic, LEGO isn't exactly the worst format to consider going through. I mean, the LEGO group have made some actually pretty interesting movies since they started creating feature-length movies. You know, as we all know, the first LEGO movie surprised absolutely everyone by being absolutely stellar and telling a story that truly appealed to every demographic with its bombastic adventures in the LEGO world and the real-life story happening on the outside. A brilliant meta-commentary on the format of play, I guess. You then got the second one receiving good reviews overall, but seemed to have been kind of forgotten pretty quickly to the general public. You know, couldn't get the magic of the first one. Surprising us again with two other departures from the main core idea, where they produced a really good LEGO Batman movie, which is, honest to God, probably one of my favorite Batman stories. I'm cursed in that way. And then, eventually, LEGO ended up fumbling with their LEGO Ninjago movie. But the reason all of these movies somewhat work to their own degrees in a little bubble is they have this, you know, blocky feel that we can just integrate into. The characters move in a slightly stiff manner, the backgrounds are all designed to look like Lego, and everything is brightly colored and plastic looking. Great for an animated fictional story, and hey, it's brilliant that it mimics stop motion animation of Lego productions of the past. But then after their contract ended with Warner Brothers, it tied up with a knot saying it was a mixed bag of different releases, but for Lego's plan next to be release a documentary about famed musician and producer Pharrell Williams, yeah, sure, of course that makes perfect sense. Now, I personally am not overly familiar with Pharrell as a creator. At most, I love the fact that most of his name sounds like my name. I'm Daryl, he's Farrell. It's pronounced completely differently. That being said, I did live through the 2010s, so I am of course aware of Happy and Blurred Lines. But in regards to his early career and his life before that, and whatever the hell he's up to, not quite these days, but slightly before these days, I knew nothing. So genuinely, it was a great educational piece for me. The movie starts off in Pharrell's younger years, as these types of musical biopics often do, and the first new fact that I actually got out of this movie is the fact that Pharrell has synesthesia, a perceptual condition that enabled the young producer to see different colors when he listened to music. We see him in front of a boombox in his Virginia Beach home, and colored bricks emit from the speakers, shifting and changing constantly to create a really beautiful kaleidoscope of bricks and colors that really helps you begin to understand how he sees the world, even from a young age, despite not having synesthesia itself. And I think, so early on in the movie, this is the start of the admittedly endless creativity that this movie exhibits. I think we were all thinking that the Lego thing was just a marketing gimmick at best, done as a way to try and boost up the general numbers of a pretty generic sounding musician biopic. But actually, it's used incredibly effective throughout this movie. Documentaries about musicians all seem to have a set formula. They learn about music, hit industry heights, become incredibly popular, crash out, and recover to begin a new life, with varying degrees of creativity, artistic prowess, and editing ability. If you know, you know. Now, this film doesn't stray from that structure. If anything, it brushes over the crash in Pharrell's career pretty quickly. But by constructing itself out of Lego, it's able to build this unique visual language to tell its story in new and interesting ways. The curse with biopics is they're so live action and pretty standard personal stories. But with animation, you can really flourish. Not a single frame is wasted, with intricate details in every shot. Visual gags are aplenty, and the animated form is just wholeheartedly embraced. There's an extended sequence where we meet Snoop Dogg where the mist that surrounds him at all time is addressed in a very clever way, and also his height is addressed by giving him extra bricks on the bottom of his feet. Also, weed reference in the Lego brand, incredible. And there are plenty of other little moments like that, including the way that they package Pharrell delivering music to the many artists that he's worked with over the years. We see him constructing tiny little models piece by piece. Haha, I get it now. We never really see CDs or other musical tech like that. They're just these glittering tiny little Lego pieces that emit bright lights. And it's a refreshing way of visually demonstrating the different elements of a track coming together, and ties back to Pharrell's unique perception of the world. It's the most artsy example of a biopic to date. And as a Lego fan, I found myself constantly looking at how things had to be put together. Whether or not it would work using actual Lego, I don't know, but it looks like it would. And that in and of itself is an impressive feat from the animators and modelers that worked on this movie. Though maybe that's old tech. I mean, Transformers somehow transform, and I don't have a clue how that works. But that's not to say this movie is without flaw, because the problem that I see with this movie is, who is it really for? I mean, one of the benefits of getting this movie so late in the UK is we can look at some of the data of the box office, and yeah, it doesn't seem to be tracking all so well, at least in the States so far. And I think part of the reason might be to do with the actual subject of the film. It's an overall very whimsical production that covers the major moments of Pharrell's career, but when you have artists like Snoop Dogg, Timbaland, and those who have a more adult-skewing audience, and then you put on this more kid-friendly Lego brand humor over the top of it, and it just becomes a bit of a confusing bit. Snoop Dogg turns into a dog. Haha, a child would like that. He's surrounded by weed gas. To me, it feels like a movie made by Pharrell for Pharrell, you know? He took an active producer role in the film and is clearly in control of the narrative that is being explored. Some of the more public controversies he's been involved in, with songs like Blurred Lines, being brushed over very quickly. I was around in the 2010s, I certainly noticed that. One of the few things I do know about his career trajectory. You can't lie to me there. It instead focuses on Pharrell's dark darker times being when he quote-unquote sold out, and how he overcame becoming too successful. You know, it feels like an obvious choice made by Pharrell to make him seem more appealing to a mass audience. You could sometimes forget that you're watching a documentary, and I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. But would I have paid attention to this movie if it wasn't Lego? I don't think so. Like I said, I don't have an intimate awareness of Pharrell as an artist, and I have definitely come away learning a bit more about the man than I did beforehand. He's had his hand in so many hit songs over the years, working with countless A-listers, building clothing lines and other businesses on the side. You know, the man was a hard worker, and there's no doubt about that. But again, it sometimes feels like the movie veers into advertisement for Pharrell as a brand, more so than creating a cohesive movie. It doesn't overly stray into full-blown marketing territory, but there are some times where that corporal shadow shines through. Which is ironic, because there are corporations in the documentary that are vilified at a point and blamed for leading Pharrell away from his true path. That being said, while there might be some sort of corporate controversy underlining this movie, I still very much enjoyed the movie. It's interesting. I think the concept of an animated documentary is something that has been widely underutilized in modern media, and is something I would be really interested in seeing more of in the future. There's so many intriguing ways you can use animation in a documentary to tell a brilliant, elevated, more artsy story. And I understand that they have to be timely in some instances, but stories like this you can do a little bit more with. So whilst Piece by Piece could have been a by-the-numbers documentary, and story-wise it still is, it's making every creative decision it can be to not be so by the numbers. I can understand why it's struggling to reach a wider audience. It seems to be a bit confused about who it wants its audience to be, but the boundless creativity from the animation to the score to even the interview structure is befitting of the star's own creative process. It's an applaudable movie, if anything, for trying to do something different that hopefully inspires others to try and do something with the documentary form going forward, because let's be honest, that genre hasn't exactly changed all that much recently. This movie turned out to be a good bit better than the first impressions I had on this movie when first seeing the trailer, but at the end of the day, it is still a limited format compared to the breadth of history that the Lego group released in prior animated movies. It is one of the better of all the biopics for its creative flourish, but one of the worser of the Lego movies because it's still a pretty realistic story, taking away some of the storytelling that Lego at one point was absolutely on top of the animated world for. So I guess in that regard, it's almost exactly as we kind of expected. Who knows where this will go in the future? Will this influence other creators to do other animated things, or will Lego themselves go into more interesting directions from here? Oh, okay, they're going there. Well, we'll talk about that like tomorrow. And then just for a little bit of fun, we're gonna be talking about now the terrible Lego movie ripoff. Now, I made two versions of this video. This was my first ever proper animated movie dedicated video on this path of mine, but I then did a proper remake, properly digesting it as a terrible, and that's the version you're gonna see now. You've seen so much of how Lego movie can go well and can go poorly. Now watch it go poorly in the hands of somebody else trying to capitalize on the success of this franchise. Oh boy. The terrible Lego movie ripoff is the movie that made this channel. 6 years ago now, I released my first proper animated movie video after choosing to full dive into this genre on YouTube. It was a review of the newly released back then Playmobil movie. Oh, Playmobil the movie, actually. And it today stands as my most popular video of all time. Madness! But also, it's a badly made video. There was no movie footage to bounce off of other than like a 1-minute trailer, and the rest of the video is just pictures from a cinema screening. It was also day one, so doing these like terrible movie reviews in my standard format wasn't a thing yet. I just basically went on a rant about this movie for 40 minutes based off of memory. So let's paste over it and get more nitty-gritty as we chronologically break down every possible red flag along the way. There's loads of scenes we didn't mention in the original, so now let's cover it proper and see how Anya Taylor-Joy rose from the ashes out of this thing. Cause yes, it's her who is the main character. This is the terrible Playmobil movie.
Not person, that sounds too formal. There comes a time in every young woman's life.
By the way, did I mention this is a live-action hybrid movie first? We'll get into the Lego design soon, but the style's gotta run through a little bit of a kickflip first. And it's weird to suddenly see her acting like a teenager. But in classic movie fashion, she's actually 23. And she's bolstering herself not to give a public speech, but to convince her own parents that she wants to travel the world now that school is over. Gap year stuff.
Which is why I got this.
And then we meet our other protagonist. A literal 6-year-old boy, since we're aiming a little lower than the Lego movie demographic here, who's meant to be that charmingly smart, blackmailing kind of brother. But somewhere along the way, this scene just doesn't deliver it well.
If you don't tell me, I'll tell Mom you gave me ice cream for dinner.
When I first saw this back in 2019, it just had that classic terrible tone that you can kind of read into these sort of movies. This isn't made by a mainline studio, it's a collection of smaller teams all put together. Hence why we had an eon pass just for the logos at the very start of the movie.
And I'm gonna backpack everywhere. I don't know, Mom and Dad make everything so easy for us, you know?
Right, so because life is so easy, Anya wants to rough it out in civilization. Okay. By the way, I realize I've just dropped you into the deep end by exposing you to a young Anya Taylor-Joy in an undercooked scene in live action before this CGI rip-off movie. But did I forget to tell you this film is also a musical? It is.
I'll take any gamble. There's so much to sample.
Shout out to that one xylophone guy in the band. He's not going hard or anything, but hey, at least he showed up. This movie's on a budget. It can't afford a full band of brass or anything. It only had $75 million max.
There is so much world to share, and it's just outside these walls.
This genuinely sometimes feels like digging out some old audition tapes or something. Seeing Anya gunning for the musical theatre route early on, like she's got that exact same intonation down, and it admittedly gets more wholesome as they start finding their footing. But you get the idea, and you're wanting the Lego movie part to kick in, as are probably any kids in the audience unfortunate enough to not get served the real thing.
I know you're dying to see the Coliseum.
I am.
And I want to go with you.
Oh, there they are! This family that seems to have everything in their lavish homes just loves the cheaper knockoff Legos that is Playmobil figures. Pre-built and pre-played with by this family. But you reckon these characters come to life in a metaphorical representation of play, thereby reflecting the thoughts and tribulations of their players with a message that can be hit to all generations of movie watchers? Haha! No, of course not. This movie will be taking things in a slightly different direction.
We save the day. Viking and night. Viking and night.
Viking and night. What a catchy chant. We're still not in the play world yet, but it's here to establish that both these guys have their own personas as little Playmobil characters. Charlie the Brave and Marla the Knight. But after the most minimal amount of playtime on screen, it's time for reality to kick these children in the teeth.
I'm sorry, but there's been an accident.
Yes, we may not be the Lego movie, but we can still copy the cliches. Their parents are dead. And on the news of losing 2 relatives that night, it's particularly cruel that Anya's character loses her brother that night too. Look, there he is holding her hand, and now he's gone. Cut to, 4 years later. Anya's got a new brother, and they don't get along in the big blue house. And just as quickly, like it was 3 minutes ago, Anya rediscovers that old passport of hers and a Playmobil guy too. Is it weird that the birth date is wrong in a fake passport? That's definitely her, but Anya was actually born in April. I don't know what the beepings are about either. It disappears after this shot, and it's not like we cut to a hospital or anything. A leftover cut from a deleted flashback? Symbolic as an audio memory? It doesn't translate well, whatever it's meant to be. Oh! Okay, I guess the plot did need to get moving. There's almost room for it to be like a Jumanji moment that we miss, with him literally falling into the Playmobil game or something. But no, he just used his 2 legs and actually ran away somewhere.
Yeah, I'm close. Like 10 minutes. Make that 20.
That somewhere is of course Toy-Com. I guess a convention for toys in this fictional world? Almost sounds like a great marketing chance for the Playmobil people to roll out as a convention for all of their toys. But no, it's not real. And in fact, when I tried to look up NY Toy-Con, I found the NY Toy Collective. It's not the same type of toys. But in this Toy-Com, with an M, it's where they stock the old Playmobil stuff. To the point they have a whole dedicated panorama for it.
I am not here for the gateway to fun.
Yeah, okay, let's
Thank
go.
you.
You know, I said let's go, together. She's gonna make me run.
Honestly, I kinda liked this small scene. For once, the comedy worked off of the script, since it's clearly being performed by talented people, and so the delivery worked this time. Shame it's in literally the smallest scene yet. And I gotta admit, it's always nice to see building art like this. You always see it in Lego, so it's almost refreshing to see it done by someone else. I suspect it's the only type of its kind. Generally, I've been calling the Playmobil product as a rip-off to Lego, debatable as it may be. But the mere existence of this movie is most likely due to trying to capitalize off of the success of the 2014 Lego movie. Took them 5 years, but surely they were inspired. But it's nice to see that it's not one-to-one. The build work isn't from one guy in his basement, it's public and corporate. It's a spin, as is what'll happen next.
It's all lined up exactly like we had it. What are the chances?
As it turns out, Charlie over here has photographic memories to the layout of their playtime from 4 years ago, and we're dipping into the world of magic. Marla, meanwhile, is here to kick us off into a well-placed emotional scene for the characters to dig up a little bit of layering, as it all comes to a head.
Ever since Mom and Dad died?
Don't, Charlie.
You died.
I mean, it's pretty surface level stuff. You've been sad since sad event happened. But it's nice to see the two actually confront it, because now we're not going to see them in the same scene for an awfully long time soon. As for how this movie approaches the CG world, it's literal magic. With a spot for Charlie to put his Playmobil sonar, which he just brought with him, of course.
It's a stupid toy, and none of this means anything!
This isn't a movie where the toys come to life and interact with the human world, and also within their Lego world. No, this is an isekai anime.
This is a toy!
It's the people who turn into toys, as everything now gets sucked up by the super lighthouse in the center of the Emporium.
No, Charlie, don't!
Okay, pause. This is pretty maddening, right? You think any of this is gonna be explained? No, of course not. Buckle in for a ride now, because the movie really starts here. And I guess that bit's meant to be a subtle joke for the parents in the crowd. Certainly goes over the head of somebody. That being said, now that we're in the realm of animation finally, it's animated pretty dang well. The environments, you know, are fine. Nothing to really scream about with its pretty simplistic design. But the motions of the characters and the gags they make about it, that's pretty good. Playmobil characters don't have knees, so it's a good time of Marla struggling to even stand up. That being said, 2019 me watching 2019 Anya Taylor-Joy didn't really think she had it in her. I don't mean to sound like ATJ's first hater or anything, but the sounds coming out of her mouth, they weren't exactly the best first impression into her voice acting prowess. What I'm trying to say is she screams in lowercase. But what can I say? I love this shot anyway. This is the shot that made me. Thank goodness that thumbnails don't come with sound. I can thank all of my successes to the choice that Playmobil hands look like Lego movie hands. And that they don't bend at the knee.
I'm coming, hang on! Whoa! Oh. Okay, Marla.
Genuinely, it's a nice spin to see that sets it slightly apart from the usual Lego animation, as much as it doesn't last long and soon enough becomes pretty synonymous with the usual animation foray. But I like the joke, as a guy turning 30 next year. And the reality of this universe is that these humans have literally become their Playmobil personas. Don't ask how exactly Marla managed to become her toy when it was abandoned in a drawer back at home when they were sucked into the lighthouse beam. The whole thing was structured for them anyway, for some reason.
Marley, it's me. You look weird.
And after an embarrassingly long amount of time for the two people to realize who they are and where they are, sprinkled with a few notably good camera techniques and directorial choices like changing the focal length and having the characters practically teleport within the same scene for cinematic effect, eventually, we get moving to the new confrontation.
What the...
It's the Vikings all coming in, clashing army to army, with of course the two in the very center of it all. You can imagine where this goes.
Whoa, that's terrifying! Awesome!
As the two are split on their reactions.
Morning!
With Marla spending the whole time flailing onto herself, and Charlie in his Playmobil body actually coming with super strength.
Whoa! This is amazing! Up he goes!
I don't really know if that counts specifically as super strength, considering all of this requires choreography and the endurance to take a hit, but whatever. The fellow Vikings are impressed.
What be thy name, warrior?
And from here, he is now revered in the Viking community for his might in battle. And just as quickly, we cut to a trio of pirates in a bush. I don't think that's even who they were fighting earlier. I think that was meant to be, like, the Scots. No, instead, it's immediate exposition time into our real villain faction, as they're on the phone to their boss.
Ahoy, Emperor!
What's taking you idiot pirates so long?
It's not really much of a secret character reveal if you call him by name first. I guess the secret is on what kind of Roman emperor he is? I don't know. Either way, he's got them all in a bush with a mission. And it won't be long to work out how it all comes together.
Bring me back the strongest, fiercest, nastiest Viking warrior you can find.
The voice of the Emperor, by the way, being that of Adam Lambert, featuring in his first animated movie out of the 7 he's done ever. Before this, it was Bohemian Rhapsody, because of course it was. And beyond Ratatouille the musical, is that a thing? And Fairyland, he would also go on to star as the villain in the awful Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate.
Come on, Megamind, let's go for a spin.
Man, the Playmobil movie is like a reverse graveyard for terrible actors. Everyone managed to rise from the ashes of this project.
It be decided then. We found our treasure.
Here we go!
And so, of course, with Charlie on a pedestal, Marla has been left behind and outcasted by her old ways. And then the audience gets some whiplash over what genre this movie is meant to be again. Don't you remember?
Who be this?
We're just gonna go.
No way!
You know, I've seen a lot of terrible movies, and I've seen a chunk of musicals. It's rare to see a terrible musical. Or oftentimes, the way it works is the music and the lyrics are kinda naff, but the performances will always pick it up to some degree. You know, it's a dodgy Disney project, or maybe it's Cats, where the cast are talents, just every other context is gone. But here it genuinely sounds like the singers can't even hit the vocal range they've been assigned.
We celebrate. Show them how we do.
Like, I get it. I can't sing. And that doesn't sound like an easy range to hit, but my Viking guy is straining to get projection out of his mouth. But the song overall is the camaraderies of Vikings, dancing to showcase they are a band of brothers without the genuine emotional bonds. They're just a group.
Brothers in arms, brothers in arms.
With the classic trope of straight man Anya trying to pull Charlie away, and him doubling down on this new lifestyle. Wow, halfway into song 2, the lyricists themselves have already given up. But as always with the song numbers in these animated movies, the visuals themselves are pretty decent. It's still pretty flat and simple lighting, but the choreography is nice. Nothing crazy beyond acrobatics, but pleasant on the eyes.
Hold up, wait a minute.
But how do we possibly get the unbeatable Viking out of the platoon of Vikings?
I'm staying right here. Charlie, no!
Oh, alright. I guess that's one way to fling us into plot progression. And just like that, he's successfully kidnapped by the pirates, straight into a van. Wait, pirates have vans in this universe? Actually, everything can have vans. And I think I kinda like this. It's a mishmash of all Playmobil universes coming together at once. Sometimes it's cars, sometimes it's horses, and apparently the Ghostbusters Ecto-1 is also in there for some reason. They might not fully own quite as many IPs as Lego, but if they can get away with flaunting one thing, oh boy, they'll do it. It's here on this highway horse chase that we come to meet our next character, Dell.
It is Dell, your buddy Colin.
Out of context, we're just seeing scenes of him on the phone while driving. Great little piece of representation in a kids movie, especially considering it doesn't specifically lead to a crash. But it has him more notably in the way for Marla than the others. As for Marla herself, well...
I need to borrow this.
I gotta feed my kids with
Clearly, there's some big stuff going on here. You know, the idea of a fishing rod grapple that has her skidding along the roads and having to rein themselves in to get steady again is a great choreographic concept. But are you feeling the impact of this high-stakes chase? Because I'm not, and I'm seeing the full scene here. The The fact of the matter is, the audio of the sequence is just not pulling its weight. The soundtrack is generic when it should be bigger, you know, more bombastic. And as for ATJ, she still speaks in lowercase, making this otherwise great idea just so underwhelming. But when the camera does choose to move, it looks nice and cinematic.
Ah! Out of the way! I'm taking the truck.
Cause yes, Marla has already hit her full breaking point and is now full sending towards accurate Grand Theft Auto. And this bit of action comes together at least a little bit better. I particularly quite like the feet fight the two characters have. And I don't mean that in like a weird way, I just mean like genuinely it's a cool shot of the feet battling for the pedals of the van. I don't get particular enjoyment over the fact that one of the feet is just in sandals. I mean, it's like plastic anyway. I'm moving on. Shut up. But just as quickly, that horse and carriage cage, oops, it wasn't a van at all, seemingly teleports away and Marla is left in the dirt.
I've lost him.
Joyride's over.
In a way, it's kind of interesting to see this world unfold with a handful of rules we don't yet understand. I'll give it that. As for the conclusion Marla now runs with, she decides to simply walk into the next town, across the mighty desert. Before landing in the Playmobil's version of the Wild Wild West. You think compared to the Lego movie that's a coincidence? But honestly, it's quite generic. The people are rough. Del Boy is magically also there, despite having a way faster vehicle. Maybe he took a detour, who knows. His enchanted hay thing made a horse grow wings, by the way. Marla struggles to get people to help her.
Don't it sound like a hoot and a holler? I'll pay a fair wage.
And upon revealing some of her Viking gold, she's immediately attacked for it instead. But hey, it came with a single good joke, overused in the trailer. Gold. And just like that, Del is now on board rather than antagonizing her too. And they drive off into the sunset together. A nice upgrade on technology against these horse riders. Now this next scene, it's kind of skippable. It's just the bonding of Marla and Del on common ground. Nothing too groundbreaking in any of the dialogue options, but I will give it its faint flowers. It has another nice little gag with the world building.
You want to get off at Jurassic Jungle?
Why don't we just keep driving?
And on top of that, I feel like you can start to see something burgeoning from Anya's voice performance. Again, it's more the comedy chops. I like her deadpan punchline delivery.
Beard, tattoos, carries around this giant axe.
How old is he?
He's 10.
What the f***?
But also, mainly, big character development. After screaming in lowercase for the whole movie up to this point, now that she finally has someone to bounce off of, she's learned to press the caps lock button. I don't know if it's like she recorded in the booth with, fun fact, Jim Gaffigan Del, or she just had a better screaming prompt, but she sounds way more fitting now. Admittedly, it's a little bit like that one Tom Cruise trailer scream in certain places. You know the one I'm talking about? Where half the audio tracks were just missing, so we were left with... Yeah, I hear it.
Woo! Lean into it!
So let's see how Charlie is getting along. And he is, of course, right at the Coliseum with the big bad, caged up alongside a few different archetypes, each the strongest of their kind. All the while, we finally get to be introduced to...
Emperor Maximus!
With all the classic exposition you would expect once again about where they are and why they can't be found.
This entire city is on a remote island.
I mean, if it's a populated city, then it's no longer a remote island, right? Is Great Britain a remote island in that case? But even still, this is all being put together for a Coliseum show, of course, with each of the strongest types of people as gladiators in this game. Also, don't forget, it's Adam Lambert starring in this role here. So, of course, we've got to bring out the old...
You're probably wondering...
Okay, bit of a screechy start, but genuinely, the rest of the song number? Yeah, it's pretty good.
Give the people what they want!
It's him just doing his thing, and I'm an uncultured Brit. American Idol, Queen, Broadway? I gotta be honest, in the ways I consume media, when I'm hearing lines like,
I give the people what they want, and what they want's a fight.
all I can really hear is, that's definitely Megamind 2's Machiavellian. It's a good vocal performance no matter how you spin it though. And everyone else is next.
And they want you to die.
So moving back to Marla, and we're suddenly in the snow biome. This is a proper Super Mario experience with these worlds. And this place is so all about secrecy that we don't even get to learn what it's actually called here. But the main focus instead is about our next main confidant in the form of Rex Dasher.
Rex Dasher!
He's a super cool spy guy, and he's played by British Daniel Radcliffe.
Rex Dasher, at your service.
Being British automatically makes you either the villain or a spy.
Rex Dasher!
Also, I don't know how it's been 6 years and I've never mentioned this, but me and Daniel Radcliffe, we have beef. This son of a gun has plagued me for literally years. I get told all the time that people think I look like Daniel Radcliffe. And I bet that's incredibly common. I'm just a British guy with brown hair and glasses. Some glasses more accurate than others in the past. But when I say that this misrepresentation has followed me all of my life, here's some of my childhood school photos. When I looked like this, he looked like this. When I looked like this, he looked like this. When he looked like this, I looked like this! And I just had to deal with that fact over the years. I was just gonna be defined as a slightly uglier version of Daniel Radcliffe over the time. I'm kidding, of course. I know I'm gorgeous. What's more, when I got my own free will, I started revolting. I started making radical changes to my appearance in order to pull away from the Harry Potter allegations. And you know what Daniel was going through at this point in his life? The exact same bloody thing. You see the projects he got into post-pot, and he's done everything to look different. We were both haunted by the ghost of Harry Potter's aesthetic. And then lockdown came. Oh, what a relief. I couldn't access a hairdresser. I could make the dive and finally grow my hair out. And so through the early 2020s, hey, you may have been watching me since those days, I looked like this. Remember this phase? And what did Daniel Radcliffe do? Bam! This son of a gun. I was supposed to be named Daniel at birth too, you know. Genuinely, I was switched out to Daryl because a family friend had taken Daniel already. What a dick. My name is literally a rip-off Daniel. And my surname isn't far off from Radcliffe either. I am in a living hell that follows me in the mirror. So every time someone mentions Daniel Radcliffe around me, I say screw that guy. But also props to him for refusing the Harry Potter remake. Glad he's got some integrity. I can never hate my handsome clone as much as I genuinely get the ick now from the growing collection of British celebrities willing to downplay and directly finance the oppression of a minority group. Nick Frost in live action and Simon Pegg on audio? God, it's like being struck through the heart like a Brit. It's real. Look at all these people. Anyway, back to the damn Playmobil movie.
And your feelings for me. Don't deny it. I'm a human lie detector.
Gross. Rex here immediately has all the answers towards the big bad and locks us onto the main plot. Also, he's a little creepy in his overconfidence. You can see the parody that he is. Taking us now to a flower shop with a super satellite ceiling, what happens next is essentially one big heist sequence. And it's okay. Only okay. Starts with a nice gag.
The Secret Killers Union of Lethal Lemurs. The name kind of falls apart at the end.
But as for everything else, it's fine. Nothing too stylistically interesting happens with the camera, just a collection of all the cliches you could think of.
We need your expert advice. Not now.
Marla's handling the impersonation, Rex Dasher is cutting off the electrics on the back end, and Del, hey, this is nice and creative. Del has to
lay out the free samples and dose them with the sleep serum I gave you.
He handles the cooking in the food truck to distract the main target with spicy burritos. You've got fake outs, retinal scans, flying through vent blades, all that good stuff.
Imposter.
And then just as quickly, they get out of there on a mission failed. Daniel Radcliffe makes a comment about the siren lights bringing out his eyes that I quite like.
The lighting in here really brings out my eyes.
Marla turns around with a success in the van.
Except...
And Rex sacrifices himself for the finale. And is just as quickly kidnapped by the pirates again. All of this stuff is fine, standard, but it doesn't really wow you in the way that every frame of the Lego movie does. So in being a far more generic and easy movie, it just stays like that. Generic and easy so far. This isn't an innovative juggernaut. Hello there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already, since you're enjoying it so far. And now back to the second half of the terrible Playmobil movie. And we're once again back to the melting pot that I really enjoy. It's back on the road again, so every species and vehicle type all comes together. Honestly, it's more of a shame that each world is still separated, as being a mix of a bunch actually feels more alive than the points of interest in their cliched ways. Anyway, Marla is reviewing the footage they've received from the heist, and it's not looking good.
And then, poof? The wagon's just gone? How can that be?
Yeah, that had already been established. When we were back in the car, Rex Dasher literally told us in no unsubtle terms that
over the last several months, a number of citizens from different lands have vanished into thin air.
But sure, now we get to establish more that they vanished into thin air. There could have been a hint of mystery to it too, if we hadn't also already have explained to us that
this entire city is on a remote island.
Again, it's not remote. But for this scene, it genuinely starts to peel closer to that emotional underlayer as Marla has to face the failing responsibility on her shoulders.
Hello? What's that, Mr. Meatball?
And you can genuinely see her and Dell getting along more closely from it. It's not exactly reinventing the wheel, but I think it is a nice and sweet emotional scene and ups the stakes as they're no longer intending to deceive each other anymore. They clue in where to go next from the footage anyway, and heat up the conflicts with a little bit of
your bag of Viking coins is really gonna save my bacon.
Oh shit. I skipped it earlier, but she said she has 40 to 50 gold coins in there, as opposed to the 2 she actually has. In case you were wondering how Charlie is doing, since 90% of the screen time has pretty much all gone to Marla, he's in a basement, and every other candidate is readying to band together to escape.
There be some escaping to do.
That's it. That's all there is to see here. The super strength guy spends the entire movie in a cage. On one hand, it makes the ordinary girl a more enticing character for hurdles, but it's not a lot of back and forth between these two. Oh, I guess there's also this skeleton. And compare it to Charles here. They are not the same. Why do Playmobil skulls have such giant eye sockets? Who was this guy?
City of the future. Take it all in, Marla.
Since we're right back to Marla's arc once again, in a new aesthetic that's a little less interesting now that it's specifically not mixed together. But either way, they're following the scent based off of a logo seen on the teleporting device that was in the footage earlier. But with classically no communication, we're sent right into the deep end as
we're here to see Glenara.
What? Glenara?
The conflict of deception is coming to a head. But honestly, it's just another cliche. There's an Adele joke chucked in there to spruce things up in the slightest way.
No, not Adele, that would be awesome.
But otherwise, you've probably seen this scene before. But it is a kids movie, aiming slightly younger, so we can pin it as Baby's first loan shark scene. That's valid, but it's not outstanding.
Trust me, you have enough gold, because if you didn't, we wouldn't get out of here alive.
And more so than just your average loan shark of a scene, right down to the design. This is just a Jabba the Hutt ripoff. Forget Lego Movie, this is just making a watered down version of every movie.
Oh, you thought I cared. You're hilarious. Ow!
Even still, this scene has a purpose. And they achieve it, even if it defies logic. Somehow, someone so money hungry would of course never reveal information before being repaid and paid again, but in this case, Glenara is happy to reveal all and be short-handed by the end because it needed to be that way. We learn that it's Emperor Maximus. Sure. We learn he's fighting in the Colosseum. What? And we learn that Marla doesn't have the money. And just like that, the two are locked up in their own way too. Exactly as expected, because so far this movie is just playing down the line. It functions so far as a story with a couple logic hops here and there, but don't think this structurally safe route is gonna hold its ground as we aim towards the ending now. Oh hey, we're back to Charles again now. With the gang of prisoners now putting their escape plan into action. It's tentacle paralysis.
They'll wake up 12 to 48 hours.
It's cavemen finding water.
We want fishies. Follow that hairy beast.
And it's going by pirate boat. But I do like actually that they add one extra hurdle to put all the responsibility on Charles's shoulders.
She's calling me.
They knock out the pirate, so baby brother here has to work out how to start a ship. He's got to be the leader as a Viking is the next best sailor. A nice moment for him to build some character since there's so little other places for it.
If Marla could only see me now.
And they had to ruin it. I remember back in 2019, this was my big defining rant for this movie. Whipping out the old floss when it was already 3 years old at the time. Pwah! At this point, I'm far more jaded over this kind of thing. I feel like even in the last year, I've still seen the floss dance in some modern movie. This move is a dead horse that has not stopped its beatings, even 9 years later. Can't wait for Skibbity to hit the movie lexicon for the next 10 years. Anyway, enough about old memes. This whole sequence, it leads to nothing. A mini character growth, but otherwise skippable.
So I can't hear anything from people that are jerks.
Pipe down, you two!
And so forget cages, it's Marla and Del being dangled into a pool of lava. But also, actually it's a portal to all sorts of places around the world. I guess Glenara is the teleporter person. Debating over where exactly she is to put these traitors. Although I can't quite tell if it's all for kills or just banishment. Some of these seem more survivable than others.
The volcanoes of Pompeii Plaza!
Maybe not that one. But also, interestingly, all of these locations were foreshadowed earlier on the road signs on that first motorway scene. Isn't that neat? I'm aging. There's once again a nice occasional gag in there, but I can't play a movie clip for longer than 4 seconds. And every comedic line has to ramble off in prose in this movie, so I'll fill in half the gaps. Del says basically, if you have even a single decent bone in your body, you wouldn't do this.
I don't have any bones in my body, thank you very much.
And see, even just her one line was pushing the limits of what I can actually show in these videos. Anyway, how do they get out of this one? Well, it's a last-minute rescue, of course, from an unexpected source.
You saved us, little guy. Thank you.
Glenara's service bot had fallen in love with Marla, so he decided to take the plunge for her. Still kinda gross. Like, how many victims did he personally witness the deaths of simply because he wasn't physically attracted to them? But sure, and it's a genuinely nice creative choice in having this portal pool as it switches between multiple bad options and a good one. All until it comes to a head with a mystery plunge. Into a nondescript forest with bad-looking trees. Alrighty. It's another short emotional scene, now with the official breakdown of Del and Marla's partnership.
I keep hearing we. There is no we.
But yeah, you've kind of heard it all before. Also, surely this is still Del's problem kind of solved, right? At the start of the movie, he was in debt to Glenara, and now that has been confronted and resolved. I guess maybe she could still be on the hunt for him, but she didn't know exactly where he landed, so maybe he's already dead as far as she's concerned. Whatever the case, this is the breakup. But Marla has motivation, knowing she still has time, that she didn't necessarily know was limited beforehand. And in the distance...
A fairy tale castle? Yes!
It's funny. I don't remember a lot of the details of the middle of this movie, but I do remember some major gripes I'll have soon over in Fairyland. But for now...
My little rotten runaways!
Wow, it's back to Charles, who actually has some consistent back and forth scenes now that we're in the final stretch of the movie. Bit of a weird pacing choice there, but it's nice to see him finally. And even he too gets an emotive scene as much as it's not that deep.
I bet she hates me now.
But after wallowing in pity for a little bit and learning a serviceable single line of lore from a couple of the other characters locked into the stock, a new candidate appears to join them.
Fresh meat coming through!
What a surprise! It's all coming together. Though is there a reason there are 2 missing slots on this wooden plank, but only one of them gets filled in? There was another guy previously, but like, he was already enrolled, right? Whatever the case, Rex Dasher even gets to parody his theme song a little bit more.
Rex Dasher. At your service.
And he'll then proceed to essentially do a Finding Nemo on us. But hey, it's not that cliched. And always satisfying to hear about. Actually, thinking about it, this whole movie has been following the formula of Finding Nemo. But at least now, Rex Dasher can go on telling the great tales of what Marla's been up to in the meantime.
She's battled all manner of deadly foe and unspeakable danger to find you.
Well, at the point that Rex saw her, she'd just run from cowboys and did a heist, but yeah, basically all those things too. As per a watered-down version of the Finding Nemo revelation. No surprises over fighting sharks or anything specific. Just, she's looking for you, bud. But what follows next I do really enjoy. Again, it's sometimes just the animation thing. As Charlie rips the stockings out of the ground and swings everyone on the attack. A nice little action scene with a few bits here and there. and then just as quickly wrapped up because we haven't got it in the budget to do too much now. And then, just as it all comes together, they cancel plans for some reason.
Go! Go!
Why did he do that?
I owe you guys.
That was completely unnecessary. What's more, you think he's gonna put up a genuine fight. You know he has the ability to, but watch this.
You think you're so brave.
It's like he wasn't even trying. I thought the motivation was to go find his sister. But no, everyone else could do that one now. We need a reason to stick to the Colosseum for the finale. Course. So I guess technically this is a skippable nothing really happens scene. Again.
I think the castle is this way.
Wondering about those dodgy trees? It turns out it's the Lost Forest kind of vibes. So still a bad place, I guess. But also, if the castle was visible earlier, why couldn't you just stick to that view onwards? It's magical. And things aren't going well, with Marla looping right back to the start and everything. And so, how do you get out of this? How do we get out of the whole corner we've been written into with getting Marla to a not remote island in the first place? Well, the solution the writers came up with at least is...
Who's there? Ow.
Throw your passport in the forest in rage, and a fairy will magically appear before you.
Hello? I'm a fairy godmother.
She was parading the Lost Woods, and she can solve any issue with magic. Does she come with a linguistic trick like a genie? Does she ask for anything in return for anything? Or if, say, a guy like Dell was to approach her, she would've...
Gave him a wish and I sent him on his way.
Yeah, that's where we're going now. A philanthropic fairy. It's literally Cinderella. But I figured there was a kind of injustice being resolved there. Not just a stranger in the woods. And it came with an asterisk, you know, be back before midnight and all that. But in this case, other than literally name-dropping the Cinderella story itself...
Cinderella got her gown, but she still had to go to the ball herself.
Yes, because that was the obstacle Cinderella had to get over with her wish. This fairy will go on to just grant Marla exactly what she needs. No caveat and with no judgments on reaching this decision and sending her on her way. It's also another song number, now with Meghan Trainor at the helm. All about how Marla needs to believe in herself. She already did. And needs to be more like her past self instead. Because being in grief is invalid. You should smile more. And after a couple more magical plagiarisms, references...
Zippity! Zappity!
Marla will go on to be brushed through the castle town, gowned up in the most princessy way, which on one hand is the archetype of this Disney princess world, but also reads a little dodgy since she's clearly not quite the type of person to fully enjoy full femininity princess stuff. It feels a little reductive, not gonna lie. And then a banner is turned into a flying carpet. Subtle. The goal is visible from the horizon.
Is that it? Constantinopolis?
And Marla is sent on her merry way. Now, I remember having a real hard time with this sharp turn in narrative direction, simply because it's just too easy. Marla didn't achieve this win, she was just given it. If anything, all she's achieved for a while now is the heist. Since then, the man was more perceptive, a bot was infatuated with her, and a girl gave her the solution. She's been getting by on pretty privilege, and that's a shame because she's written like a fairly competent character. I'm sure she could genuinely have succeeded with something here. In fact, and we haven't addressed this the entire movie somehow, she is just a persona. Like Charles is Charlie the Brave, her character was always Marla the Knight. So, where's the knight element of all of this? What, Charlie got to inherit his full Viking body, but Marla comes in as just an ordinary girl? Just because she didn't bring her toy with her? Which also, anyway, already didn't have a slot in that old panorama. I feel like there could have been an arc here of her rediscovering that she was Marla the Knight. Or that she too has acrobatic abilities since Charles got his strength. But we are 70 minutes into this movie and just 20 minutes remain. Even if they do it in the final battle, I feel like it is way far too late to build this in a satisfying way.
I'm coming for you, little girl!
Instead, she becomes more like her old self because the magic lady told her that she has to be.
The show's about to start.
Here's Charles in another cage.
Marla, I need you.
And that's all. Genuinely, we're back to Marla now. Man, maybe I should have spaced out that prior rant a little bit more. I thought we were done. My bad.
Whoa. So it's impossibly tall.
Couldn't the flying carpet have maybe landed on top of the wall first? But anyway, now that all is resolved, we've got callbacks after callbacks. First with Anya unknowingly quoting Maximus by describing the wall as
an impenetrable wall.
And then also bringing back a line from 4 years ago.
As Amelia Earhart once said, adventure is worthwhile in itself.
Again, it only took one song to get over 4 years of grief here. But soon enough, they're off. Finally actually doing something by kicking this guard off of a wall.
Walk it off, big guy!
And then just as immediately being recognized somehow. How does that make any sense? This too, barely established. Rex Dasher did it once earlier and gave her this thingy in the van earlier, but in no way is it perceptible to follow that this is a thing that she could do. But we're just gunning to the ending now. Conveniently, there's also just Roman guards not paying attention for Marla to just waltz on past. And as she reaches her destination, it's time for the games.
I declare the games open!
Again, the games were already cancelled had Charles just jumped down the hole with everyone else. It is only him now.
Hey!
Oh hey, maybe that's everyone else coming into the rescue. I certainly don't recognize that gear, and we just saw Marla in the last... Oh, so here she is. 1 hour and 20 minutes into this 1 hour and 30-minute movie. Now she is finally the knight. But still not in like a, she learnt the skills kind of way. Just in costuming. Where did she even get this from? She wasn't wearing it under the hood earlier. Apparently it was in the treasure chest at the end of the fairy godmother scene. Always comes back to her, doesn't it? So then, why did we gown her up in the most girly attire if this is what she was always supposed to be? And as a relatively ordinary person, I find it surprising to believe she would just leap down and slice a banner like this, considering everything else she has done with her own two hands have been a whole lot more grounded up to this point. But it's cool. Forget how we got here. Everyone knows in narrative it's all about the destination, not the journey. So let's have our finale with, hey, another nice gag.
Here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes.
Our big bad brute is a dinosaur. I guess lingering from the Jurassic segment earlier. A classic gladiator scene. Let's whip out the old orchestra for it. Come along, boys. I know we started on pretty bad footing with a single xylophone guy, but now Marla's gonna be running up the tail and on the back of this beast. So give us what you got, guys.
Stay away from my brother!
This is our finale music. The big climax. But whether it's singing on a bed, fish rotting on the road, or parkouring on a dinosaur, it's all just the same. Unseasoned and uncooked soundtracking. What a shame. Also, their attacks do nothing and the odds are seemingly against them. Time for a random rescue! Is it a band of prisoners, established as a team and aware of the context of this Colosseum battle? No, it's Del, of course. The one we last saw angry at Marla and leaving, and wished away on his own path. I guess you can call it subversive. Or you could call it quite cataclysmically out of character.
Let's make this dino soar.
Well, at least we know it's still him. So now, as we have a dino van fight, the kind of thing I would have genuinely loved to have seen more of, you know, the actual mixing of archetypal aesthetics here. In the background of this chaos, we do actually get a full explanation for Del's actions, so I guess it kind of makes sense.
1,000 breakfast burritos. So I paid Lenara back double. And she let me use her transporter to get back.
Is it a cool detail to have such a convoluted explanation hidden under the layers of audio in this scene? Or is it trying to patch over a pretty patchy stitch of narrative work? Whatever the case, with some enchanted hay now re-established after we haven't seen it for an hour, again, throughout, the pacing of this movie is just immaculate. We get to loop back to our final real callback, as Marla and Charles commit to their defining move from back in Playtime days 4 years ago.
Super Duo Slingshot!
And that'll do it. Do you even remember what the enchanted hay does? It was just a throwaway line ages ago.
My little pony, my little pony.
It gives you wings.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Does a dinosaur go on to viciously attack its owner, now no longer shackled to the ground? it grows diluted pupils as well and becomes completely docile. The brute has been befriended. Oh yeah, and now finally the fellow prisoners show up.
Sorry we're late.
They would have just let Charles die if they were alone. That's comforting. And so, with the battle overthrown, Emperor Maximus is thrown into his own cage with a crappy line to end on.
No fair!
And everybody's happy. Once again, another great line from the pirate captain who, after claiming he gave his crew an ultimatum of join back with him or be fed to the piranhas,
2 of them chose the piranha!
Marla releases the dinosaur formally, says her goodbyes to Del and the robot, who I guess are resolved by each other now.
You've got Del. You're a family now.
Yeah, deep connection those two have. And the humans, don't forget these guys were humans the entire time, now decide they're ready to go home.
Wait, how are we gonna get back home?
I think by that he means how do they actually address the whole lighthouse magic thing? Again, completely unexplained magic throughout this movie. But forget that. What Marla meant was simply... yeah, okay. And so, they fly through every old place we've seen in reverse chronological order. And suddenly you realize just how few places we actually explored. It's quite a quick little sequence.
Look, there it is.
And just like that, as well, the lighthouse magic is just on and ready and waiting for them. The magic is there to provide to those in need, that's all. I guess that's fine for a kids movie, but still feels a little underwhelming compared to how so many other rivaling movies have achieved more with it. And so, into the light they go, back into reality. No real existential approach of never seeing your new friends again as they were never real in the first place. Just fly straight into the exit light with your dinosaur, that can't go wrong. In reality, of course, the dino stays back, and absolutely nothing has changed out here.
Must have been the scariest 5 minutes of your life.
Not even time. Wow, magic! But their bond is fixed. Marla's passport written with several new stamps.
Look at all those places.
5. She went to 5 places. Vikings, cowboy, future, fairy, Rome. Maybe a snow building, if you want to count that. And on the reveal of every other character's death, they gleefully leap out of the building. There's a shot of droning onto Rex Dash's car as if to insinuate he's slightly real too? It's probably just a car ad. And the two bound off into the distance. I can't hear the rest of the sentence, but I think she's wrong. Unless she's using the universal guy, she definitely learned of him through Glenara. Hey, nitpicks is what we're here for. Also, what happened to Charles's friend who he was going to see in 10 minutes? No, make that 20 minutes. He just evaporated on the other side of his phone, I guess. But we haven't hit the ending quite yet. This is 2019. We gotta get a mid-credits scene to watch. He doesn't come back. No, of course, every movie these days has to come with some kind of sequel bait, even though more often than not, they never come back. So what, in the Playmobil universe, no one could possibly be a bigger villain than Max? They didn't want to commit to a whole new megalomaniac for just one scene? Whatever the case, I always find these kind of embarrassing when you're 6 years on. But maybe it's for the best, since I reckon the people probably knew this wasn't innovative cinema. This was the terrible Lego Movie ripoff. Though really, it reads a lot more like Finding Nemo. This film is one of those super niche projects I hold near and dear to my heart. Oddly enough, I remember the songs and some of the voice delivery quite well, which kind of worries me. And of course, I have to thank it for kickstarting my life in this strange direction for so many years. Add on to the fact it holds an early Anya Taylor-Joy, a pre-Megamind 2 Adam Lambert, and that damn Daniel Radcliffe. And this is a real backwards gem of a movie. So I'm delighted to now formally present this in the real terrible format. It doesn't do its ideas very well, the soundtrack is underwhelming, most scenes are formulaic cliche, and in comparison to their IP big rival, this doesn't hold a candle to any Lego movie. And I wouldn't have it any other way. They say the average YouTube career lasts 7 years, and 6 years later, we're still going decently strong. Here's to many more. And that is the end, finally, of all of the LEGO movies up till now, covered in some sort of form over the years. If another LEGO movie pops up that's a little bit more interesting than just a biopic, perhaps we'll pick it up again in some other new format, who knows. But for now, I'd best finally end it off there. My name's been Daz, thank you very much for reaching the end of this compilation. Do tell us your thoughts on all of the LEGO movies, but I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more. Let me know any details that I might have missed against all of these hours. But otherwise, I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!